The June 13, 2023 meeting. The first order is to call to the order to this meeting, and then please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Alder Allen.
Present.
Mayor Radafrada.
Here.
Alder Gerhardt.
Here.
Alder Herbst.
Here.
Alder Jetzer.
Here.
Alder Maldonado.
Here.
Alder Strassman. Here. Alder Udell.
Here.
Alder Wheeler.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. So, so we have a couple of proclamations and a word presentation. But before that, I want to make, before making the proclamation, I want to make some comments and dedicate today's meeting to a community leader, my dear friend and mentor who passed away last week, Juan Jose Lopez. And I want to do it now, knowing my mayor's report, because some of you that are present here know him very well. So Juan also was a friend of the city of Fitchburg. Even though he didn't live in Fitchburg, he worked in several organizations located here in this city. He was the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club, Briar Patch Youth Services. He also was a member of the board for the Wisconsin Latino Chamber of Commerce and the Latino Consortium for Action. He was the first Latino elected to the Madison Metropolitan School Board and was an instrumental in the creation of Central Hispano of Dane County, and also was a founding member of Adelante, that is a political pact to support people of color running for office. He fought for migrant rights and the LGBT community, and especially he was a significant mentor to students and the youth and community members, mainly Black and brown people. I work very closely with Juan on many projects and initiatives. He was my vice president when I was the president of the Latino Chamber of Commerce. We also co-founded together the Latino Professional Association of Greater Madison. He was instrumental in me and also for Alden Maldonado to be in this common council today. He pushed us to be a better community leaders and prioritize public service. He was very proud of all of us, especially of our kids. He was a leader in Dane County, Milwaukee, and he will miss a lot. I will miss you, my friend Juan, especially your long phone call and guidance. Yeah, some of you know about that. And this is not a goodbye, it's hasta luego. So that's it. So, so the first proclamation, our first proclamation for the night is recognizing Lesbian, Gays, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Month. I want to do that with a couple of our elders. Whereas the Fitchburg is a welcoming city for the LGBTQ+ community and their families, and
whereas Fitchburg is dedicated to ensuring that our LGBTQ+ community and its allies have a safe and inclusive environment to celebrate diverse sexual orientations and gender identities, and
whereas when all people have the ability to feel welcome and safe, we are all stronger and a better community, and
whereas LGBTQ+ Month recognizes that Fitchburg and the global lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community have made great strides in the recent years toward full equality, and
whereas LGBTQ+ Pride Month raises awareness about Fitchburg's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community and their contributions to Fitchburg's unique and diverse tapestry in a positive and productive manner, and
whereas June has become a symbolic month in which lesbians, gay men, bisexual people, transgender people, queer people, and supporters come together in various celebrations of pride, and
whereas the rainbow flag, also known as the LGBTQ+ Pride flag or gay pride flag, has been used since the 1970s and is a symbol of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer pride, and LGBTQ plus social movements, and
whereas flying the rainbow flag at City Hall throughout the year further symbolizes the city's celebration of diversity and support for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community.
now, therefore, it is resolved that I, Julia Rata Frata, Mayor of the City of Fitchburg, along with the Fitchburg City Council, issue this proclamation and hereby declare the month of June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the City of Fitchburg, and invite everyone to reflect on ways we all can live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding. This is proclaimed June 13, 2023. So I know that we have a couple of people in the audience that want to speak, so I'm going to be calling you to the microphone, and then we're going to take a picture together, okay? So, so the first one is Christopher Peguero. You have 3 minutes.
I won't take 3 minutes. Christopher Peguero, he, him, his, and I am a member of the Menominee tribe and also a Two-Spirit person, and also come from immigrant roots from Mexico. So just to share my lived experience a little bit with you. But as you may have known when I presented before the Parks Commission consideration, our family, my husband and our children, had an opportunity to really think about where we wanted to live in Wisconsin when we moved here from Seattle 2 years ago. And Dane County, Madison, Fitchburg were absolutely the only places that we could think of to come to Wisconsin. And so I'm very proud to be a resident here in Fitchburg, and Mayor and Council, City of Fitchburg, thank you so much for recognition of LGBTQ Pride Month. That recognition is a bright, shining beacon especially right now, where many municipal governments are taking opposite stances that are not supportive of our community. And your stance today actually does have a real positive impact on real lives, as our community members have a higher instances of both bullying and suicide. So the proclamation today is a beacon of hope and welcoming, and I just want to say thank you and I appreciate all the work that you do to support our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So next, Laura Olsen.
Is that on? Okay. My name is Laura Olsen Dugan, and I use the pronouns she, her. I have been a City of Fitchburg resident since 2001. I moved to Fitchburg while expectant with my first child, Connor, and chose this community as where I wanted to raise my family. Fast forward 22 years, and I am an LGBTQ plus ally and the proud parent of a young gay adult. As the parent of a young gay man I raised in Fitchburg, I would like to share with the council 3 key messages this evening in celebration of Pride Month. First and foremost, I appreciate the city's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that our city is led by a diverse common council, reflecting and representing the rich diversity in our growing community. I would like to thank you all, and in particular my alderperson and neighbor, Randy Udell, for championing issues centered on fostering a diverse and inclusive community. The city flies the Progress Pride flag all year long, not just during Pride Month, which is a testament to the city's vision and inclusion. The Pride flag is a symbol of acceptance, unity, and it being flown all year long demonstrates that our LGBTQ plus neighbors and community members are seen, acknowledged, and heard. Additionally, I want to thank the City of Fitchburg Public Library for its commitment to offering library materials reflecting LGBTQ plus people, themes, and issues. It's important for people at any age, particularly children, to be able to see themselves and their stories reflected in books and other library resources. Libraries are a cornerstone of an informed democracy, and I value our library's commitment to gay pride and inclusive library materials 12 months of the year. Lastly, as was indicated earlier, we are living in a time when rights of members of the LGBTQ plus community are once again under attack, with an increase in challenged library materials in many parts of the state of Wisconsin. Attacks against trans rights in many states in the form of bizarre legislation, coupled with Justice Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion in Hobbs v. Jackson Women's Health last summer, in which he stated the court should reconsider due process precedents, including the 2015 Supreme Court landmark decision Obergefell v. Hodges, which granted same-sex marriage rights nationally. Acceptance and inclusion starts in our neighborhoods, in our school districts, and in our communities, and trickles up to the state and federal levels. I am grateful and proud to live in a place like Fitchburg, Wisconsin, which celebrates Pride Month and all that it stands for. So in conclusion, happy Pride.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. So next, Kate Miller.
Hi, my name is Kate Miller, and I'm a resident here in Fitchburg. And I also want to commend you on having the flag all year round. One of the thoughts in the back of my head was going to be to let you know that we are here more than just the month of June, and you clearly understand that, so I appreciate that. I also had the honor and privilege of working with the Fitchburg business community for 6 years in my role with the Fitchburg Chamber, and I have to say that they are a very, very welcoming group as well. So I know that you represent a lot of the residents here. We live here. The residents around us make us feel safe and loved, so we have that. But the business community, too, welcomed me with open arms, and many of these small business owners are still friends with me today. So we have definitely cultivated something here that is special, and I want each of you to know that it is not that way in every community, even every community in Dane County, and I have personally experienced that. Fitchburg is so close to both me and my wife's heart that we got married here just down the road last year outside of perennial yoga and meditation. So there was no better place for us to solidify our commitment to each other than right here in our home of Fitchburg. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next, Baltasar de Anda.
Hello, everybody. Buenas tardes. My name is Baltasar de Anda Santana. Unfortunately, I'm not a resident of Fitchburg, and I'm thinking of maybe changing here. You know, I think one thing that is super important, I always say 1 month is not enough. My husband and I have a relationship that lasts more than, it's whole year. So we need to have a space where we can celebrate the whole year, not just 1 month. I'm the director of Orgullo Latinx, LGBT+, a small group that works with our Latinx community members, to talk about, gay rights, gay issues, etc. So the other, you also know me as, many of you know me as the executive director of the Latino Academy of Workforce Development, and it is thanks to the same-sex act that I am here right now. Without that, I will be back in Mexico, because when I married my husband, I did not have documents. So, I'm very, very proud. Thank you very grateful to this country for that opportunity. Very grateful for this space. I'm also grateful to have a mayor like, Julia Ratafrata, who has been part of our journey of that group. Every time that we put together a rally, a parade, it was amazing. It is amazing to have folks that I don't have to come out. This is who I am. And, definitely having folks like, our mayor here and many other folks here who support our community, it is a blessing. And I'm just going to finish with something that I took from the Human Rights Campaign, that kind of summarizes what this day means to us. Celebrate Pride with us without exception. Pride is a joyful celebration of all the beautiful identities of our LGBTQ plus community. We create spaces where we can bring our whole selves to dance and march in the streets and declare, we are here, we are visible, we are proud. But this is also a moment of crisis for our country and our community. Lives are literally on the line. Too many people, trans people, black and brown people, people living with HIV and AIDS, people being denied basic care and facing unprecedented attacks. And still, we raise up and fight back, and we will continue fighting back. Never forget that Pride was inspired by the Stonewall riots. At Stonewall, we stood our ground. Today, we're still fighting, and we will do so until we'll have freedom without exception, until every city in the country can be the city of Fitchburg. Liberation without exception, joy without exception, and pride without exception. Join us.
Gracias, Baltasar. So anyone else want to speak, or then we take the picture now? No? Okay, so we are taking the picture. So everyone is invited to come on, please. Faye, Laura, Iris.
Both sides, both sides. We have lots of room. No, go ahead. Everybody in. Two, three. Last one. Bigger smiles.
So, okay. So our next proclamation is proclaiming June 19, 2023 as Juneteenth Celebration Day. Whereas Juneteenth is the day marking the end of the slavery in the United States, and
Whereas when Union Army General Gordon Granger landed at the Texas port city of Galveston in 1865 as the Civil War drew to a close, one of his first actions was to read General Order No. 3, which stated that all slaves are free and that former masters and slaves have absolute equality of personal and property rights, and
Whereas following his statement, June 19th, Juneteenth, became the emancipation date of those long suffering for freedom, and
whereas, since then, as the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in America, the tradition of celebrating Juneteenth has remained strong well into the 21st century to recognize the triumph of the human spirit over the cruelty of slavery and to honor the strength, endurance, and faith of African American ancestors. And
Jim.
whereas Juneteenth is the first new federal holiday approved since Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 1983, and for the first time, the Juneteenth holiday will be observed in the city of Fitchburg on Monday, June 19th, 2023, and
whereas it is imperative that citizens in Fitchburg and across our state continue to work towards a more just Wisconsin, as well as join together to acknowledge a time in our history that carried on the nation's ideals of equality and democracy, and celebrate the joys of liberty and justice for every American citizen.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Julia Arata Frata, with members of the Fitchburg City Council, do hereby recognize June 19, 2023 as Juneteenth Celebration Day in the city of Fitchburg, and remind individuals of the importance of this and to celebrate African American history and culture while continue to promote diversity, equality, and a strong sense of community in our city and state. Proclaimed this June 13, day of June 2023. So, anyone want to speak, or then we take the picture? No one? Okay, so let's take the picture. Everyone is invited from here to take a picture.
More people on this side, more people on this side. One more, yeah. Go ahead. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2,
So the next one is Shannon and I, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
You want me to do the first one?
Yeah, you can start. Yeah.
All right, so. Recognizing Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home Day. Whereas over 8.7 million Americans served in the armed forces during Vietnam era from 1955 to 1975, more than 3.4 million were deployed to Southeast Asia, and approximately 2.7 million served in the Republic of Vietnam. And
Whereas more than 165,000 men and women from the state of Wisconsin answered the call to service during the Vietnam War, and
whereas 58,318 United States service members made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty to their country during the Vietnam War, including over 1,239 from the state of Wisconsin and 2 from the city of Fitchburg. And
whereas of the nearly 1,600 Americans still unaccounted from the Vietnam War, 26 of those missing are from the state of Wisconsin. And
whereas many veterans of the Vietnam War and their families continue to cope with the physical and mental scars suffered because of their service to our nation. And
whereas the city of Fitchburg recognized the courage of the men and women who served in the United States Armed Forces with honor and distinction in Vietnam and around the world in one of the nation's most challenging wars from November 1st, 1955 through May 15, 1975. And
whereas the city of Fitchburg supports the Verona American Legion Veterans Foundation of Verona American Legion Mason Lindsay Post 385 as they commemorate the service, valor, and sacrifice made by those who responded to the nation's call to duty during the Vietnam War, serving in Vietnam and other locations around the world within the advancement of democracy.
Now, therefore, I, Julia Arata Frata, Mayor of the City of Fitchburg, in the County of Dane and the State of Wisconsin, along with the members of the Common Council, do hereby proclaim June 25, 2023 as a Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home Day in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War and command in observance to all of citizens of the city of Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Proclaim this 13th of June 2023. So we're going to take the picture, and Mike, you can make some comment.
Sure. Hi, my name is Mike Rowan. I'm a retired U.S. Army officer and a proud member of the American Legion in Verona. The last year we looked at our World War II veterans and our Korean War veterans and found that there weren't many of them left, and felt that we had waited too long to celebrate their service. We were able to do that with those that were left in our community, but we didn't want to wait longer for our Vietnam veterans, as they are becoming our more senior veterans in all of our communities. So we decided to do this, but it became too big for our post in Verona. And so we reached out to Wisconsin Brewing, who offered their facility to facilitate this event. So it is Sunday, June 25th, and thank you so much. You were the first to accept our invitation to come. We're very proud of that. It is by invitation only because we have limited funds. So it is all of the veterans in the city of Fitchburg and Verona were contacted, all the Vietnam veterans, and invited to the event with a spouse or caregiver with them. We have about 150 people that will be there, and we're very proud of that and proud of their service. And we're proud of this community for celebrating our service members. And thank you, Mayor, for doing that for us.
No, thank you. Thank you. Good. So, okay. So,
Can I say one thing? Yeah, I would. I have two uncles that served in the war. One passed away in the last few years. The other, dear uncle, he's facing Alzheimer's now. But growing up, I had many mentors and people that supported me that were Vietnam veterans, and I've seen many of them pass away from Lou Gehrig's disease, the Agent Orange, and many things. So this is very appropriate. I feel very honored that the city is doing this. This is very personal for me, and I can't thank our veterans enough. And the welcome they didn't get when they came back. I hope this brings a little happiness in their heart.
Okay, so this is for you. So next in our agenda is the presentation of the Bicycle Friendly Community Award designation. So Steve. Oh, the microphone.
Would you come up?
Oh, okay.
This is for you if you write the agenda item. Scott, if you would.
What is the award?
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, okay.
Grab it, Daryl. We don't need it yet. I'm going to talk first.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for putting this on the agenda. I'm Steve Arnold. Although I live in Fitchburg, today I am representing the League of American Bicyclists, where I'm a member and a league cycling instructor, and the Wisconsin Bike Fed, the statewide advocacy organization. And I am here today to recognize Fitchburg, which has been awarded, again, a renewal of the Silver Bicycle Friendly Community Award. So that will be good for another 4 years. We got our first Bicycle Friendly Community Award in 2012, thanks to the Chamber of Commerce, who initiated that. Bike Fitchburg did the last two in 2015 and 19, and this year the Bicycle Committee and Bike Fitchburg did it. It's important to recognize when we consider that we were renewed at silver that the award system was completely revised and made much harder. And there were new elements added to it, and nationwide, only 1 new bronze and 5 communities were promoted from bronze to silver. The other 45 either got no awards or got renewed at the same level. So we're proud of the work that Fitchburg has done over the last 4 years, including new infrastructure like buffered bike lanes, paved shoulders, the bridge of the Badger State Trail over McKee Road, our business outreach that resulted in 11 new bicycle-friendly communities designated in the last year, the extension of the Madison B-Cycle bike share network to Fitchburg this year, the repeal of the mandatory bicycle registration that is a barrier to some people bicycling, the conception and the work so far done on the Fitchburg Greenway system. All of these things make bicycling safer, easier, more fun, and more equitable in Fitchburg. And it's the result of a lot of players, the city leaders, all of you elected officials, your predecessor and you, Mayor, and the Chamber of Commerce, the business community, individuals. And so it's a great effort, and I'm very proud to award you with the Silver Bicycle Friendly Community Award for another 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
I will hold this while you accept the award.
So thank you, Steve. Thank you to the Bike Fitchburg. I know that Bill is also part of Bike Fitchburg too, and the Bike Committee. The Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce is another partner, and some of our businesses, and also want to recognize also my former Mayor Aaron Richardson, because he also was part of of putting together the proposal for apply for gold, but we get silver. So I want to say that we are going to continue to invest in bike infrastructure. This is part of my priorities as a mayor, and continue working on making Fitchburg a friendly bike community. So I think our next goal is to be gold, Steve. Yes. Okay?
I'd like to recognize Daryl Jordan as the president of Bike Fitchburg.
I don't have much to say because Steve stole all my thunder. I'm pleased to be here tonight because this indicates that Fitchburg is keeping pace with other leading cities in making bicycling safer and worthwhile and enjoyable to bike through, as well as making transportation in general safer and worthwhile to bike go through Fitchburg. And Bike Fitchburg is a community organization to help promote cycling in Fitchburg and make it safe and enjoyable and worthwhile. So we are pleased to be a part of this presentation tonight.
Thank you. I'll recognize Alder Bill Jetzer as a member of the Bicycle Committee, a member of the Board of Bike Fitchburg, and a stalwart transportation bicyclist everywhere he and his wife go. And we also should recognize tonight Mark Hamilton, the chair of our Bicycle Committee, who could not be here. Mark is one of the pillars of us getting this renewal. He worked tirelessly over the last 4 years in all different projects, as well as put in a huge amount of effort into the application. So thank you very much, everybody, city staff, and all the citizens who worked on this. And we will leave this here, and Chad will take care of getting it to its final destination.
Okay.
Go ahead and pick it up. Oh, right. Oh, and let's have the photo. Next camera.
Okay, so next in our agenda is mayor appointment. I would like to appoint Carol Poole to the Plan Commission. We have a resignation in the Plan Commission, so I decided to appoint Carol because Carol was an alder for the city of Fitchburg. He was a chair of the Plan Commission for many years. I was in the Plan Commission with her. She has a lot of knowledge, expertise, and this is the right person for this position. So welcome.
Thank you. It's honored to be here again, and as I sit here listening to all of these proclamations and seeing everyone that's here and realizing what a great city this is and how I've lived here pretty much all my life, and we serve all of our communities. We have found ways to bring everyone together to get great things done. You can drive through this city, and our land use plan is second to none. We were a model in doing our comprehensive plan for the entire Dane County area, and it's just, I'm so proud to be here, and I'm so proud of everything we've done. So I just wanted to start by saying that and thank all of you for your time, because I know what a commitment it is, and I know how hard it is sometimes to bring everyone together to come to a good conclusion. But what a great city we live in. And I'm so honored that Mayor Frada wants me back. I would love to serve on the Plan Commission again. I really enjoyed the work. I enjoyed working with the developers, with staff, and I think we have such a great plan. I look forward to working on the plans that we've put together, looking to see if they need to be revised in any way, making sure that we're serving our community and doing a good job for the people of Fitchburg, and keeping it an attractive place for people to come here and want to build their businesses and come here and want to live. We need good places for people to live, good spaces to recreate in, and we need to make sure that we're doing that. And I was very proud to be a part of that for 8 years, I think, and 10 with my total service. And I really look forward to being able to participate in that again. So I hope you'll support my nomination.
Any question?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Sorry.
On that question, I just want to say thank you for your willingness to come back and serve. I know in your personal life, many things going on, so I really appreciate it. Those of you that don't know, Carol's probably acknowledged as the best alder in the history of District 1. She comes infinitely qualified.
Thank you.
I can't tell you how happy I am to have her willing to come back and serve on planning.
Yep, and I'd like to thank you, Dave, too, for your comments on Vietnam vets. As a wife of a disabled veteran, I understand that sacrifice, too, and it's hard on all the families. So thank you for that, too.
Any other comment? No? All those in favor of approving Carol for the Plan Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
And welcome
Look forward
back.
to it.
So next, we have, for the no agenda item, we have David Haidt, who wished to speak. David.
So you'll hear from me a few times tonight, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the overarching theme, which is transparency. So transparency is the foundation of a democratic society. It's the ability, it gives the people the ability to see that their will is being carried out. But beyond that, we live in an information age, in an information society. It's incredibly important that all bits of information are shared within city government in the council, the mayor, outside to the citizenry, and to people and organizations like vendors. Efficiency comes from the sharing of information. Unfortunately, much of the city government traditionally has not had a transparent mode of operation. And I challenge the council and the mayor to take the lead on this. And I'm going to speak about it in the context of meaningful oversight and evidence. So what constitutes meaningful oversight? It means getting information that you can make judgments about the critical aspects of whatever the decision is that you're being asked to make. And that requires information, but not just information, it requires evidence. It requires you to be able to examine every bit of critical process that has occurred within the city that's led to the decision that's put in front of you. You must begin to demand more. You must ask for presentations, summaries, not just a sheet with saying, here's what we did, but it's information that says, here's what we did. Here's the problem that we're trying to solve. Here are the different options that we considered. Here's the things that we decided that we would approach. Here's why this is the decision that we've taken and why it is going to work. And how do you measure that it's going to work? And the mayor, it's your job to make sure that proposals that come before the council have that information. Right now, many of them don't. And I'm going to point out a few of those tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, he's gonna, okay. So he's gonna speak on those ones. Okay, so before we move to the consent agenda, we have a couple of individuals that want to speak about some of the consent agenda topics. So we have, what is, this one? Oh, okay, sorry. So we have Susan Easterday in support of, she wants to register, and I need to make the comment about agenda item 5C, is registered in support of comment by Craig Rapp of the Tree Advisory Committee, registered in opposition of the city administration revised version of the ordinance, the 2023-0-11. And then we have Linda Brewer, also she wants to register only, agenda item 5C. So it doesn't say comment below, I don't know. Who else we have? Craig Rapp also wants to speak on agenda item 5C5, the tree preservation plan. So, okay, you're ready, Craig?
All right.
Okay.
Am I up in the room?
Yes, you're ready.
Oh, fantastic. Good evening, and thanks everybody there for the time. I know it's a little bit unusual to have a public appearance here for a referral to committees, but I felt pretty strongly that the viewpoints of the Tree Advisory Committee should be heard in that room. So we've spent over 2 years talking with various committees, meeting with city staff, and soliciting feedback from developers, researching other ordinances to develop the ordinance that we proposed today. We believe our proposal satisfies the 2009 and 2019 Fitchburg Comprehensive Plan goals for tree protections, as well as the requirement to become a tree city of the world, while not imposing undue burdens on developers or city staff. Following that final recommendation, city staff made some seemingly small changes that will be detrimental to the positive impact of the ordinance. We believe it's highly irregular for city staff to put their weight on one side of the scale as strongly as they have in this legislative process. And this time, unfortunately, I think they missed the mark a bit on communicating what the advisory committee was actually suggesting. We believe that the staff recommendation that you'll see in front of you tonight does not reflect Tree Advisory's recommendations, nor does it satisfy the comprehensive plan goals or the Tree City of the World goals. Our hope is that by circulating both versions, our original one submitted and the version submitted by city staff, we will solicit valuable feedback from the various committees as it's going around. while also taking into account the feedback from Fitchburg citizens. To close out, one of the explicit purposes of the Tree Advisory Committee is for Fitchburg citizens to advise the Common Council on policies for tree preservation. This draft ordinance we submitted is our advice to the council. We expect to make some changes after receiving the feedback from committees, but once we've incorporated that feedback, we encourage the Common Council to adopt the ordinance as it was worded by the committee who dedicated our time to this, and not the weekend alternative version proposed by city staff. Thanks for allowing me the time to speak. Please feel free to reach out to me or anybody on the Tree Advisory Committee after this meeting to ask any follow-up questions.
Thank you. David, do you want to talk about C9 and C14? Okay, come on.
So C9's the approving the contract for the construction for construction management services for the police services facility. So a contract is to be awarded based on an RFP. And an RFP is a process used to solicit proposals where an award cannot be made strictly on specifications or price, and several firms are qualified to furnish the product or service. However, price is always a material consideration. It's called competitive negotiation. So it's an exercise in discretion. Whenever you move away from an absolute measure such as price. So what happens when you have price is specifications get driven to very precise levels. And the proposals reflect that. And as it iterates, the city also drives their specification to very precise levels. You remove that, and all of a sudden you've got a great deal of discretion, and discretion in this context means danger. So the issue that I have is, if you look at what you've been given, is you've been given a sheet that says we had two proposals, and one was better than the other, and we picked it. Okay? Here's the specification from the State of Wisconsin Department of Administration on what the process to evaluate and award a contract based on an RFP actually looks like. It's very complicated because you have to make sure that in this process where discretion is being exercised, that it's scrupulously fair. You have to make sure that the people who are evaluating don't talk to each other, that they're trained, that the criteria has validity, so that when you're actually evaluating it means something. And why is that important? Well, you have to have value for the people. But one of the other things you see, and you see it in this particular issue, is we've got two bidders. It costs a lot of money to submit a bid. If you don't know what the process is, if you have no confidence that your great bid is going to be evaluated fairly, correctly, and you know the criteria that's going to be used, why would you submit a bid? It's much more difficult, and that drives up costs. We need for you to get this information in these packets. It needs to be publicly available on the websites so that vendors can see how these proposals were evaluated, how the vendors were selected, so that they have the confidence to come here and put out great proposals for the projects that we need. So what I'd like asking you to do is not forward this, because essentially you're forwarding a request for review and recommendation on no information. So the other issue is a long-standing one. It's a question of the SIP process. So the ordinance specifically states that the city's water and stormwater utility are quasi-independent agencies with effectively the same powers as a utility commission, municipal utility commission. In fact, in the case of the stormwater utility, it has more. One of the things that you'll see is, so the Board of Public Works is the governing body. And here's the text. The Board of Public Works, subject to review and advice by the council, which means unless you pass an ordinance, you cannot affect what the Board of Public Works does. Resolutions are ineffective. And it's, the Board of Public Works is to take charge and manage the stormwater facility as now and hereafter constituted and undertake the responsibilities prescribed in Wisconsin Stats 6204. 6204 are statutory home rule powers. The council, when it created the stormwater utility, said, take these powers. We know in 2002, we don't know what we're going to need for you to do. Take these powers, use them. The powers of the council with regard to stormwater as elucidated here are gone, and they're in the stormwater utility. The stormwater utility is required to author the budget, and the council's only power is approval of that budget. So we've got the SIP. To my knowledge, the Board of Public Works, acting as a unitary body, which is the same way that the council acts, has not seen the budget at all. And where are the ROIs on these projects? How are they prioritized? How are they evaluated for ROIs? How are they impact the water quality? None of that is present. So we have a process problem and we have a substance problem. We have a process problem in that we're not following the process that's mandated in the ordinances, excuse me, and we have a substance problem is that we're not evaluating these in any real way. Where's the ROI? Where's the purpose of these? They're just grab and political influence. That's not why these precious powers and awesome powers are given to the stormwater utility. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we are moving to approve the consent agenda. Do I need a motion? Any comments, question? Do you want to remove or something from the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to remove the May 23rd draft minutes.
Which one?
The May 23rd draft minutes.
Which one?
A1.
Oh, okay. Do we have a second?
Sorry, pull it out so that I can
Put it out.
make an...
Yeah, okay.
She wants to separate it out.
Yeah, she was separate, so, okay. So all those in favor of the consent agenda without agenda item A1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion carries. So next, what do you want to?
Yeah, there was one error. I'm sorry, let me find it really quick. It's item in the draft minutes B2. It says motion to postpone, blah, 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 made by Herb, second by, and it doesn't say who seconded the motion. So it's just missing a name. I assume that we can figure that out by the video. So just moving it with that small change. I'll move to approve it with that small change.
Okay, so do we need to have the person who seconded that? No?
Tracy can go ahead and review the
Okay.
meeting transcript
Okay.
and then add that information.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes the way they're, with the change that Gabriela proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. So next we move to, 1 second. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment on this to the people who came here to talk about the tree preservation ordinance. It's being referred out to committees, so committees have the ability to amend this and do with it what they want. So that's kind of the process of how this works. We don't really have a process where we have competing ordinances. So hopefully within the normal structure of the way we do this, an acceptable version of that ordinance can come back.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So next is the administrator report.
Good evening, everyone. I've got a number of items here on my report for you all this evening. First, we'll do the road construction items.
Sain and Lacey Road intersection remains closed and is likely to remain closed into July. The Seminole Highway and Lacey Road intersection closed yesterday on the 12th of June. There were notable issues with motorists disregarding the road closed signs, and our police department and engineering department have already went out to make some adjustments. One of the most disappointing things is folks' complete disregard for the barricades and in some cases moving them. That does obviously keep our road construction crews safe when you stay out of those construction zones, so we'd appreciate folks' cooperation there. The 2023 resurfacing projects have gone out for bid, with bids being due at the end of the month. So we anticipate the road resurfacing projects will all be completed prior to the close of the construction season this year. There's also a water main flushing notice that was sent out. Our utilities department delayed spring hydrant flushing, and that will now start on Thursday, June 15th, and will finish on Thursday, July 6th. Flushing will occur Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and due to the flushing, water may be temporarily discolored, and the discoloration can be cleared by opening the cold water tap to full flow for a few minutes, and our utilities department would suggest you do laundry in the evening when water is cleared to avoid any damage to clothes. The Fitchburg Chamber Biz After Hours event for summer, also known as the Oak Bank Soiree, is tomorrow, June 14th, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Thirsty Goat. There'll be a petting zoo in Southdale Park from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on June 28th. The library will be closed June 29th, June 30th, and July 1st due to lack of services from the South Central Library System as the South Central Library System relocates its servers. The city is celebrating Juneteenth at the Senior Center on Friday, June 16th from 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. I believe there'll be music, food vendors, and raising of the Juneteenth flag. And City Hall will also be closed in observance of Juneteenth on June 19th. I also want to let the council know that staff and the mayor were requested to meet with Madison Metro last week regarding an update on the proposed north-south bus rapid transit line on Fish Hatchery Road. The design for that line is underway to bring the BRT line to approximately McKee Road. Metro is intending to apply for a federal grant later this summer that would cover 80% of that project, and the remaining 20% would need to be funded locally by Fitchburg. The estimated cost for the city share are being included in the upcoming amendment to the TID number 10, which is the Fish Hatchery Road TID, with the intent to fund those BRT infrastructure and capital costs to the extent possible through the TID district there. In regards to shared revenue, it appears as though an agreement has been reached by our state legislatures and the governor. It's my understanding that voting on that bill will begin tomorrow, and we will await passage of that bill to learn all of the, I'll say the restrictions, if you will, or at least conditions associated with the additional increase in shared revenue, and we'll look to get a read on that once it's fully passed. And then the final item that I have for you is we are nearing the end of the Town of Madison apportionment. A letter has been drafted from the two finance directors to the two mayors that outline the basic calculations for the final dissolution of assets and liabilities based upon the framework included in the apportionment agreement that was approved by both councils. In 2022, Fitchburg received a check from the City of Madison for $607,500 for our share of the town hall appraised value, and the City of Fitchburg is expecting an additional check from the Town of Madison for approximately $220,000. This funding will allow Fitchburg to address some of the deferred capital needs that were inherited from the town. Any questions for me at all?
David.
Chad, I know this is preliminary, but please tell me the BRT isn't going to make us tear up Fish Hatchery Road, which we just spent millions of dollars to create a gateway into our city.
You will probably not be surprised that that was one of the very questions that we posed during that meeting. And it's our understanding that the impact to the recently reconstructed Fish Hatchery Road will actually be minimal, and that the BRT stations are slated for the medians. So that will be the areas that have the heaviest level of construction, is where those stations are planned for the medians. Yep.
Any other question? Bill.
Yeah, so the bus line will come to an area that is also slated. The Beltline PEL said there would be a park and ride near that location. Do we know any more details on that?
I'm not familiar with a park and ride for the Fitchburg area at all. That was not discussed. There was one that I am familiar with. It's Sun Prairie, which is at the east end of the east-west line, where there's a park and ride, but I'm not familiar with anything that's slated for Fitchburg at all. So if you have additional information you could share with me via email or phone call or whatever, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, there were like 4 different scenarios being considered, and the park and rides were included in at least 1 or 2 of them.
Okay, that didn't come up in the conversation with Metro.
No.
Yeah, I think that the PEL, I was on that a while back, but I think it's because we haven't a transportation engineer attending those meetings. There's those regional meetings happening, and they have these conceptual ideas, but I don't think they have they have theoretical locations, but I don't know if they have actual practical locations. But we should talk about that, because I feel like that's a big part of it.
Sure.
Any other question, Randy? And then Jay.
Yeah, when I served on the Madison Transportation Policy Planning Board, this discussion did come up, and you are correct, Bill. There are 4 or 5 locations, and one is proposed for the McKee Fish Hatchery general area. Now, where that would fit in, we all know that geographically it might be a little bit difficult. So that is a good question to take back to. I'm assuming you're communicating with Tom Lynch in that organization?
That's not who we met with on last
okay.
week.
Right.
We met with Justin Struenberg, who's the general manager there. I can certainly mention it to our engineering department and see if, now that we do have a transportation engineer, if we can get some updated information on that.
Okay, very good.
Jay?
Yeah, there have been growing questions about the Sayin Road, Lacey Road intersection and why the project is taking so long. Do you have any insight into that? Because we were originally told that it would be the end of May that that intersection would be done. And I've had a number of comments from people who tell me that day after day after day after day after day goes by with zero progress happening out there.
Tracy, can I ask you to maybe provide some insight on that, since you'll by far have the best information available?
Can you hear me? Good. The biggest holdup on the Sayin Road is the relocation of utilities. There's the overhead electric on the poles, and I think Charter AT&T and a little bit of Windstream is on there as well. And we've been working with AT&T. They originally had a plan to where to move their lines, and then late in the game that didn't work for them. And they came to the city and said, hey, can we get an easement on the city's outlot adjacent to Sayin Road? So we approved that easement, and then they had to get it in the works to do the work, and we've been waiting for them to do that. They are out there now relocating the lines and the poles. This is for the turn lane that would turn, southbound turns onto Lacey Road. That's where the poles are. But once they remove their lines, then AT&T has to come in and remove theirs before we can actually pull those poles and then continue with placing the aggregate in that area.
Thank you, Tracy.
Any other comment, question? Okay, thank you, Chad. So next we move to the committee's report, Plan Commission.
I'll move approval of Resolution R-10823, PP 2523, approving the preliminary plat request PP 2523 by Dan Day, agent for D'Onofrio, Kothke and Associates and Hartong Brothers, Inc., to amend a preliminary plat to allow the subdivision of 19 total lots, including 14 buildable lots, on properties associated with 2622 Blaney Road, and this was postponed from the May 9th meeting.
Second.
We're happy today. Usually
I was just waiting for something to happen.
Okay, so
I'll move it as amended by Plan Commission.
I'll still second.
Yeah, okay, good.
I'll just give you another delay.
So before we discuss, we have 3 individuals that they wish to speak.
Okay.
For 7A1 and 2 is Johnson Stevens, Ned Hoyt, and Brian Manson. So I don't know if you want to speak now or, yeah.
Boy, that would have been scary if that died for a lack of second, wouldn't it?
That would have been. No. Well, thank you, Council. Brian Munson with Vanderwall & Associates. Glad to be back here kind of on the next step of implementing the Hartung project. Of course, tonight, an amendment based upon a soon-to-be submitted SIP to bring some additional housing options into the project, some changes to accommodate a specific program for this site. So we just wanted to take a few seconds tonight and thank the work the staff has done and the commissions. The project has gotten to this point based upon the cooperation with the city, and we really appreciate the working relationship that we have with everyone and look forward to implementing this project as well as other projects as they come forward. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions anyone might have about the proposal.
Can you explain what are the changes?
Sure, happy to. So it's a couple changes based around the creation of the first residential component within the project. So this is bound by Botanical Drive and Blaney Road in the northwest corner of the site. What we're doing for this is actually removing a short section of Harvester Pass to accommodate the program that was proposed by Ned for the apartments. And then increasing slightly the number of units by about 15 units on this parcel, as well as reducing some units. We had a multifamily parcel west of Botanical that's going to go down to townhomes. So trying to keep that general balance and mix of residential units within the project. That's the largest 2 components. But then there's a lot of kind of finer details of making sure we have sidewalk connectivity to the site, as well as other character components within the project as worked out with staff. So the big movements are removing Harvester Pass and then adjusting the unit counts within the project.
Okay. Any other comment, question? Jay?
Yeah. I had a couple of questions because the drawings you had in the packet weren't very clear to me. So I had a couple of phone calls over the weekend from residents at the Landmark.
Yep.
And so the Landmark's a 55-plus residential building. But next to that are some townhomes, and apparently the townhomes are not being marketed 55-plus. Apparently there's a lot of kids there. And because of the way the Landmark developed without having a playground or anything, there's no place for these kids to go, so they're kind of creating some chaos. So what I was trying to figure out is you must have some parkland dedication in your project, right?
Yes, we do. So there are 2 park components near this project, neither of which are in this specific amendment that the apartments projects would be moving in. So just in the northwest corner south of the commercial lot 1, there is a park space there adjacent to the wetlands and the start of part of the trail system that'll wind its way through the entire project. We do anticipate that as having an opportunity for some play structures if interested by the city. It is going to be dedicated, so they'll be available for the folks to the west as well, and hopefully that'll be something that could be brought online quickly, as Botanical Drive is one of the road components that'll be implemented in the near term, opening up that opportunity to develop that park if the city so chooses.
So that's this little park that's just, probably like a half a block away from Haight Farm Road, or Lacey Road at that point.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, which is almost right across the street from the Limerick.
Very close.
Do you know how large that park parcel is?
I would have to go back and look, mainly because it's part of a larger outlot system. As I said, that was designed to be kind of a tot lot that expands the stormwater management and the trails that kind of wraps around. But we could get that actual acreage of that kind of developed tot lot section and get that back through staff.
Yeah, that'd be great. The residents that I talked to, I told them, look, there's going to be some park space over there. Probably not going to be next week.
Correct.
Probably going to be a year or 2 before you see that portion of it happen. So I just wanted to try to understand, because I saw it said public park in tiny little letters there, but it looked like a very small area.
It is designed for a tot lot, so it's not designed as an active use park, so potentially playground equipment, benches, seating, those kind of things would be appropriate there.
No baseball diamonds.
No baseball diamonds and things like that. Not scaled for that. Okay, thank you. Jonathan clarified it's 0.7 acres. Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, just about 3/4 of an acre. That's probably fine. I don't know how many townhome units they have over there, but even if each one of them has 2 kids, that's only, 15 or 20 kids coming out of there.
Yep.
Our economic development coordinator says 27 townhomes.
Oh. Interesting.
There were 40?
In the Limerick.
Oh.
27 townhomes in the Limerick.
40 in your subdivision. Any other question, Jay?
No, that was it.
Any other question? No?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess I'm not entirely sure whether these questions are apropos to item 1 or item 2, but it's just, the overall plan. So this is, following our comprehensive plan. We're doing development along the rail corridor, right? And this is supposed to be transit-oriented development, but the only hint of transit that I've seen is a potential bus service coming in. And when you look at the drawings, the acreage devoted to parking is at least twice that devoted to the buildings themselves. That doesn't seem right to me. And I guess we are embarking on, the creation of a sustainability plan. What will the Pale Blue Dot consultants think of a plan with this much impervious space surrounding the buildings?
I guess I could answer. So the design of the overall general development plan, and that is what this stage is that kind of roadmap of where we're going, was to implement the adopted plans to create opportunities for significant employment components within the region, coupled up with walkable residents in close proximity in an urban environment, so hence the townhomes and the multifamily. We do have some commercial there to the northwest corner of the site to help serve some of the need for localized commercial, but recognizing the challenges of the location and the desires to the north for future significant commercial closer to the interchange, we've had to kind of balance some of those pieces. Certainly as this gets implemented over time, there are opportunities because the zoning anticipates a range of densities, scales, and heights of buildings, even within the employment areas. So what we were trying to illustrate with this right now is that employment-focused piece, which could have 1 to 3-story buildings. And there's opportunities for those to change as this gets implemented, as potential users come to the table and have proposals, much like what you've seen elsewhere. And if there's opportunities to trend towards more dense development served by transit, that's something that would be beneficial to the project as well as the future tenants. The other aspect is this is going to be phased over a significant amount of time because the Hartung Brothers facility to the southwest of the site is going to remain on site for the foreseeable future. That's a significant investment on their behalf and a business that is beneficial to the community. And so they are anticipating that redeveloping in the future. That's why this is a phased GDP. And we talk about, and actually if you look at the adopted neighborhood plans, the transit components actually fall along the rail line where that current facility is located. So there's an opportunity in kind of the distant future when that conversation about transit becomes more ripe and the opportunity to redevelop that site in a higher density, higher scale use comes together to help create the financial underpinnings that would allow it to redevelop. There's an opportunity for some of that to be also incorporated in future phases through the redevelopment of the balance of the parcel to the south. That would also be coupled up, and we've had significant conversations with city staff about the potential for what is being called Blaney Road now, but potentially could be connected to the south and actually, per the plans, connect over to the extension of Nobel Drive, opening up greater corridors for access to that location, as well as greater regional transit opportunities in the future beyond just the rail corridor itself.
Any other Jay?
Yeah, well, the McGaw Park neighborhood plan had Nobel Drive connecting to that. It was just happening at the southwest corner, because that's kind of where Nobel lines up to cross Sain Road. And that's, I believe that was the area where a transit station should be. But we don't know when that's going to happen.
Correct. And that's still embedded in the plan. We're not connecting that at this time because of, again, the Hartung facility remaining in place. But that corridor is anticipated through this project. So that's still preserved as an opportunity to get that regional connection through there, coupled up, as he said, with the opportunity in the future, if there is transit at the table, that could change the development pattern of that site.
I do want to echo Bill's comments, because I think after he made his comment, you kind of shifted to a different topic, which I totally understand, because it's not something you probably want to talk about, but this does look like a very 1970s design of a business park. 1970s, 1980s, with these gigantic parking lots. And I think as we move forward with different things, not just in the city of Fitchburg, but you're seeing it everywhere, that the notion of having these spread out developments with big chunks of asphalt is just it's not the future. It's not where we're headed. And so I think we need to come up with some different answers ultimately. But what do you anticipate as the phasing on this? Which section of this do you think will be built first?
Yeah, so from a phasing standpoint, we've got to do some juggling of access. So right now we have Old Blaney Road, which is the access to the Hartung facility. So what we're going to be doing is building New Blaney Road, coming off the roundabout to the south, creating a new access point for the Hartung facility. At the same time, the multifamily project could potentially begin phasing from north along Lacey Road to the south, and then Botanical Drive would then be constructed as soon as full access is given to the Hartungs around to the east. When those two roads are in place, that unlocks the commercial and the residential components, and at the same time, we're going to be stubbing some roads to the east to unlock some of the employment components along Harvester Pass. So phase one will be a combination of both the residential, employment, and commercial sites, with the residential kind of taking the lead right now as the tenant that's at the door. And so we will begin marketing and attracting interest, and have already had conversations with city staff over the years about potential interest in the employment side as well. So we're excited to bring all components within the neighborhood as part of that first phase. After that, phasing will really be determined based upon tenant interest. So as we get more employment, we will extend roads to the east. If there's more interest in the commercial, we'd move in that direction, and the same for the balance of the residential.
Any additional questions? Bill?
So transit aside, I guess, well, a couple of comments. Jay, part of the parking issue may be due to the city's rules requiring minimum parking, just for, X number of stalls per 1,000 square feet or whatever, which is something that I think we ought to look at. I guess another question, so the commercial space you've got there is, I think it said 22,000 square feet or something along those lines, which, just for context for everyone, that appears, based on Google Maps satellite photography, to be about 40% as large as the Pick and Save up on Cahill, Maine. How many businesses do we think are going to fit in there? And just if you go to Walks, think about, a couple years in the future, you've got all the development done, the retail is in there, you go to walkscore.com, what kind of a score are you going to get when you've got a total of 22,000 square feet of retail space?
Yep. So the challenge with WalkScore is the combination of the geography of the site as well as the opportunity for commercial. Right now, the metrics of commercial and employment are not very good for attracting new tenants, but we're incorporating them because it's the right. We need to have those pieces to create a neighborhood that's functional. But the goal of that commercial suite in the northwest corner would be to have anywhere from a larger destination restaurant use to 3 to 4 smaller scale neighborhood serving uses. They're not targeted at things that would be attracting the entire region to come to it, except for the fact that if we have great businesses, we would hope that the community supports it. The goal of those are to offer, walking trip opportunities for the neighborhood that serves both to the south, to our projects, the west, and to the north. But then also recognizing that, again, to the north on Lacey, up closer to the intersection, the mixed-use components are more regional serving, where things like grocery stores and things like, and health services could be located in the future. So we kind of have to design it based upon not just the geography of our site, but the opportunities for where commercial wants to go in the surrounding, which led us to really focus more towards the employment piece, which is a harder piece within the region to deliver because it's a more regional serving use. We think the site is well positioned for that. So the commercial is not intended to be a town center per se, but to have anywhere from 1 to 4 tenant spaces incorporated into that use is something that we could see at that scale. And also the zoning does allow for, I believe, 1 to 2 stories on that site, so there could be some upper floor uses if there was desire for that, for service uses and things like that.
Any other questions?
I do have another follow-up. So you talked about the relocation of Blaney Road, but in the diagrams within the packet, I couldn't see that there were any pedestrian facilities allowing people from the north side of Lacey to cross over and make it to that retail space.
So we would anticipate that with the redevelopment of Lacey and Haight Farm, that at each of the intersection points, there would be opportunities for crossings, and that each of those sidewalks would extend into the site. So Botanical Drive, we would look to have pedestrian facilities. Again, the city would have the ability to design those crossing points. We would like to see those crossing points. The design of all the streets are for on-street bike facilities, for sidewalks on both sides, as well as off-street path systems throughout the neighborhoods. We want to make sure that people can walk and get to this site. We have some barriers to the west with the railroad, which we know we can't cross, but we want to make sure there's permeability to the north. So at each of those intersection points, we'd like to see crossings incorporated into the design of those streets.
And the path on the south side of Lacey, that would extend as far as where the people from the Limerick would cross. Is that correct?
Our understanding is there'll be sidewalk and/or path on the south side of Lacey and Haight Farm across the entire stretch of the project, and completing a complete network of sidewalks and paths, not just within our site, but connecting it out to the adjoining networks.
Okay. Any other questions?
I guess I'll do one more, maybe.
Okay, go ahead.
Just in general, I think this is another, similar to the parking, I think this is within our city ordinances, the maximum height of any buildings. I see an awful lot of 3- and 4-story buildings going up, and I don't know that is ever going to be enough to achieve walkable neighborhoods. Did anybody know off the top of their heads, what would it take for us to, get people to go even, 6 or 8 stories?
Bill, I might answer.
I can answer part of that.
Okay.
Our ordinance doesn't restrict the heights of the buildings. People could be building 12-story buildings right now if they wanted to. There are economics that are involved. Like if you drive around town, you will rarely ever see a 5 or a 6-story building. And the reason for that is because the elevators that you need, the piston elevators, they don't work after 5 stories. So you have to go to the counterweight elevator system, which is a much more expensive system, and you can't pay for that with 6 stories. If you're going to do that, you got to go like 7, 8, 9, 10 stories. So there's a spot in the size of these buildings that just makes it economically unfeasible. So 3 and 4 stories seem to be what we see a lot because they can go with the less expensive piston type elevators. But it also you see a lot of those taller buildings going into downtown Madison. And that's just because of the density of everything that's available there makes the economics work. but you guys can throw some more pennies into that jar if you want.
Sure, Jay. There's also a lot of structural issues. So once you cross 4 floors of timber construction, you basically need to swap to concrete and steel. You can go 5, but you then have to have extra supports, which increase the cost of the structural design. So typically, you're going to cap out at 4 stories of timber construction over 1 floor of concrete parking before you end up with significant structural costs. And then beyond the elevators, the concrete and steel cost a lot more. So the rent structures, rent available in most parts of Fitchburg don't currently support going taller. But once you do start to go taller, once you can actually justify it, there's no reason not to go, 10, 12, 14 stories, unless you're in the capital height restricted zone.
The other thing I would put in there is, in addition to the economics, building code is a component. So once you go over 6 stories, you're into a high-rise construction class, which means a whole lot of different systems get upgraded appropriately. And again, that drives costs, so the underlying rents have to support it. The other piece is, again, function of parking. Most of the market right now is in that 1 stall per unit covered parking mode. And you can do that with a 3-story building. Usually you can get the 1-to-1 parking ratio underneath the building. Once you start to go above that, you start to either go to another layer of parking underneath or other parking delivery components, and that kind of ties it all together. So it's a function of a lot of different pieces right now, but I think the biggest one, as Ned said, is just the economics of the rents supporting the construction costs to go higher. Is kind of that tipping point of creating the environment where people want to pay that extra rent and have the amenities in support of it and have the environment around it. All kind of comes together towards driving that desirability of getting the financing in place to be able to build taller.
Bill, I would just add as well that this project was approved a year ago, and the change that we've come back with is to take 7 smaller buildings and replace them with 3 larger, more modern buildings. And we get a little bit of extra sort of density out of that. We get a little bit of extra amenity. It should be more enhanced towards a future walking realm. We think we're trying to deliver that with the multifamily component here, and we needed to come back and make this change in order to support that. So we're trying to go in that direction, but some things will be determined by what is the actual market demand, what type of business actually wants that employment sort of district and what kind of buildings suit their organizational structure. So we're trying to head in that direction with this change. I think this is a change in the direction you're looking for. We can't dictate the entire market.
I don't mean to make you any sort of a whipping boy. It's just that this is the first project that has come across this body as I'm an alder. Just a couple of points, though. I will point out that in the city of Milwaukee, there's a building called the Ascent, which is currently the world's tallest mass timber building. It's 25 stories. So, it can be done. Sure, the rents are exorbitant, but, if that were only 6 or 8 or 10, maybe the rents would have been somewhat less. So I understand that there are obviously considerations, but it's not as if you can't go taller with timber only. I guess the other thing is that we're kind of saying we can't build taller because we don't have enough amenities nearby to support that. But if you only build low density, you're never going to have the amenities. So it's some kind of a feedback loop there that we need to address.
Any other question? Jay.
I just wanted, since you brought up rent, I live in one of the buildings that is 1,000 feet away from your proposed development here. And the rent for my 2-bedroom apartment is nearly the same as what somebody is paying in one of those 12-story buildings that are downtown. So, obviously Fitchburg can support those rent amounts. So maybe we need to have a bigger vision.
Shannon.
Well, we also need to keep in mind there are also people that can't afford that either, and they would like something that's not as expensive.
Any other comments? We are ready.
One final question. And again, I'm not trying to make you a whipping boy. I'm just, so let's say that everything goes to plan. It's some small number of years from now, everything is built, and this isn't one of these things where, you're going to kind of build the entire neighborhood all at once, right? 30, 40, 50 years from now, how do we keep this from just decaying and rotting away? Is there a plan for ongoing maintenance in perpetuity?
In terms of the multifamily?
We spend about 35% of all of our revenue on ongoing and annual maintenance and operating expenses. So there's a regular set of expenses when the tenants turn over. Usually about a third of tenants turn over sort of every year. There's typically sort of money spent to kind of refurbish sort of the units themselves, and we reinvest into the buildings themselves. I can't guarantee you what will happen in 40 years because I will not be here, but I do know that we do reinvest into all of our buildings on an annual basis to maintain the quality.
All right. Well, do you have examples that we can tour through the neighborhood? Just, do a little drive-by? Because there
was
are
a new
plenty of
Alder,
places
we'd be delighted. The Terrace Point building where I live, just up the road on Fish Hatch, the city had their grand opening for the Fish Hatchery road reconstruction there. We'd be delighted to take you and any other members of the council or new members of the Plan Commission or whatever through. That's essentially what inspired us to ask for this change, is that we wanted to do buildings that were more like that with a common green roof and covered parking. So we think it's a good model. The tenants like it. It's been received well by the city previously, and that was our goal, was to bring 3 of those kinds of buildings, and we'd be delighted to give you a tour.
Okay, any other question? No? Okay. So all those in favor of resolution R-108-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carry. So next, Gabriela.
I will move approval of ordinance 2023-009, RZ 2501-23, zoning ordinance amendment granting general implementation plan zoning for rezone request, RZ 2501-23, by Brian Munson, agent for Hartung Brothers, Inc., to amend zoning for the PDD GIP Plan Development District General Implementation Plan District to allow for alterations to use mix neighborhood design and site design for the proposed Hartung Fields development on properties associated with 2622 Blaney Road.
Second.
As amended by Plan Commission.
Second.
Thank you. And this is just the corresponding amendment, so I think the discussion is well had for this one.
You think so?
Any comments? Question? Do you want to add anything else?
Nope,
No?
just another thank you.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of ordinance 2023-0-09, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay.
And I have a couple small comments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Continue with plan. Yes.
The other two things are, there's a minor comp plan amendment that was referred out tonight. Just wanted to flag that for you. It's in the referral, or in the consent agenda materials. And then also at our meeting, and this was back in mid-May, so it's been a while, but they talked about the 2 neighborhood plans. We're getting close to them being under contract. That's the Greenfield and the South Stoner Prairie neighborhoods. I don't know if there's an update on that, but anyway, those 2 neighborhood plans are getting close to being contracted out. So I just wanted to flag that as well. And that's all.
Yeah, we're anticipating that those will actually be referred out June 27th.
Okay, thank you, Gabriela. So next we move to Board of Public Works. David.
I'll move approval resolution R9823, amending 2023 stormwater and water utility budgets for the water rate case professional services.
Second. Thought I'd try and get one in.
Okay, can you explain?
Public Works approved, and
Oh, sorry. Did the Finance Committee approve, Randy?
Finance Committee approved.
Okay, so can you explain what it is?
I will. We might bring Tracy up. She's dealt with this a lot more than I have.
Actually, Misty's going to cover
I'm
this
sorry,
one.
Misty's not.
And there is an
Sorry.
oh, there she comes.
Well, I'll start out. We, for many years, our water rate case and before we had stormwater, every 5 years we'd make an adjustment, and it was relatively large adjustments. You know, consider you go 5 years. So it was about 8 or 9 years ago, we implemented, the Public Service Commission gave us permission to implement smaller increases, you know, without going through a full rate case that had to be submitted to the Public Service Commission. And we've done that, but every 5 years we need to do an actual, you know, submitted rate case to the PSC. So what this is for is for a water rate case, you know, the services of a company to put together our rate case and for presentation to the Public Service Commission for approval of new rates. Am I somewhat close, Misty?
Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing I would add is that in order for the water utility to increase the rates, because it is a regulated utility, it has to go through the Public Service Commission. And then what Alder Herbst was saying was exactly right. We've done a couple of simplified rate cases, but now if we want to increase again, because it's been 5 years since our full rate case, we have to do that full process. And we need to hire a consultant in order to help us with that process. The reason why it's coming to you is we need to do a budget amendment. So there's two pieces with this. One is the amount that we thought the consultant would cost was erroneously included in the wrong utility. It was budgeted for in the stormwater utility instead of the water utility. So we need to move that to where it should have been. And then the cost to do this project is higher than what we anticipated. So there's a budget amendment in there as well to take money that's available in the Verona Road project, which is a one-time savings, and apply it to this one-time project to make up that difference.
We need 2/3 of the vote, okay?
Yes.
Okay, any question for Misty or for David or Tracy? No? Okay, so do we need roll call for this? Yes. Yeah, let's do it, 2/3.
Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhart.
Aye.
Alder Herbst.
Aye.
Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman.
Aye.
Alder Udell.
Aye.
Alder Wheeler.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So it's approved. So next one, David.
I'll move approval of Resolution R-10123, accepting subdivision improvements in the Ocella Certified Survey Map.
Second.
Well, this was approved by the Board of Public Works. This was on the earlier agenda, but there were a number of items that hadn't been completed to the department's satisfaction. So these punch list items have been completed, and they've given us the go-ahead to accept this subdivision improvement.
Any questions? No? Okay. All those in favor of Resolution R-101-23, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Next, I'll move approval of Resolution R-10923, approving 2023 through 2026 ecological services for West Lacey Road Stormwater Facilities Contract.
Second.
Did Public Works approve this?
Public Works approved.
Did RCC approve?
Yes.
Did the Finance Committee approve?
Finance approved.
So, so we have David. He wants to speak on this item.
So one by our attention and one stormwater pond is just north of Lacey on the parcel with the sub-zero wetland. So starting in late 2016 or so, with the exodus of longstanding Public Works engineering staff, who did an outstanding job up until that point, the city has adopted uniformly the dangerous fiction that if you put a 75-foot buffer around a wetland, you can do anything you want. Well, that's wrong. The law specifically says that wetlands are protected entities in Wisconsin, and in order for you to do certain things like discharge stormwater into a wetland, you must go to the DNR, and it must run an evaluation algorithm that checks to see if any of the protected values of that wetland are impacted, have significant adverse impacts. And it's a wetland by wetland judgment. The burden of proof is on the project proposer. The DNR doesn't have to prove anything. It's the project proposer has to prove that there is no impact. One of the key parts of the law is that so-called secondary impacts, not digging in the wetland, but changing its watershed, changing the amount of water, pollutants, et cetera, that are in environmental corridors that are part of the Dane County Water Quality Plan, that are crucial elements of the Wisconsin implementation of the Clean Water Act. Those must be considered as part of that evaluation. Well, you ask, well, doesn't the DNR give us permits for all this stuff? And the answer is sadly no. There's two kinds of permits. One's an individual permit. It means what it says. You go to the DNR, you say, we've got an individual site here, work with us. Goes through the whole regulatory analysis. When you come out, you're guaranteed that your project meets the requirements. You're given an individual permit, which means that you can move forward and you're immune from suits from the DNR and from citizens. There's a thing called the general permit. The general permit, there's one general permit. What is filed is a notice of intent, the notice of intent to comply with that permit. And the DNR considers it self-certification. The city goes there and says, we certify. And what do we certify as the city? The permit that's given, the general permit for construction, land disturbing construction activity, has an exclusion. The exclusion is if your project affects wetlands, your project is not eligible for permitting under that permit. Affects wetlands means a lot of things, but the one thing that says by statute is if you have a new or increased point source discharge into a wetland, you have a pipe or a channel or something else that's new, you don't get the permit. Well, what's the city been doing? The city's been certifying that it is eligible for those permits. Now, the point is that when you apply for the permit, you submit a drawing. You also submit hydrological studies for the pre and post construction stormwater runoff conditions. So the permit application itself contains the evidence stipulated to by the city that it affects wetlands. Thereby, the very filing of the city itself is not just evidence, but it's proof that it's not eligible for it. This is a problem.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Got it.
Thank you, David.
Anytime anyone has any questions about this, the city needs to prepare because this is a Clean Water Act violation and all options for citizen action are available. And I'm fed up. I've had enough.
Thank you, David. Okay. Any question about this? I don't know, Tracy, do you want to make any comment?
Is that, it's 3 years to vegetation management and things. I'll let Tracy.
Sure. So the city followed all the procedures to put an RFP for the management services for the stormwater facilities for the Lacey Road reconstruction project. There's 2 of them that this plan is for, or this management services are for. It's the one that'll be at the northeast corner of Lacey Road and Seminole Highway, and the other one's just south of Promega's facility there, so it'd be east of Commerce Park Drive is where it'll be located. It is for management service, it's for the vegetation, and then the maintenance services to get the natives established, so that maintenance for us will be minimal then after that, hopefully just burning every few years to keep the to keep it healthy. Field and Stream was we only received one proposal for this. It was from Field and Stream. We worked with them many times in the past, and they provided quality products for us.
Any other question? Is that part of, I have a question, is considered wetland?
Not where our facilities are is not wetland. The wetland, I think the wetland he may be referring to is to the north, where Sub-Zero did their, where Sub-Zero did the dredging as part of the Sub-Zero project. So it's a little bit north of our project is where that is.
Okay. Where we are here. All those in favor of resolution R-109-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next, David.
Next, I'll move postponement of resolution R-110-23, acceptance of 2023 utility improvements until the June 27th council meeting. And we're just not ready. They're still bidding this out.
Okay. All those in favor of postponing resolution R-110-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next.
Next, I'll move approval of resolution R-111-23, approving the purchase of a 3/4-ton Chevy utility truck.
Second.
Can you explain?
Public Works approved.
Oh, did the finance approve?
Yes, finance approved.
This is replacing a 2008 similar-sized truck that it's time for it to be put out to pasture, and we'll try to reuse a box or whatever we can off of it. But the truck that we're using will start to incur too much maintenance moving forward, and this is a replacement that's been scheduled. Tracy, do you recall who this? I know Tim told us who primarily uses this.
I believe it's Jason Anderson's truck.
Any question? No? All those in favor of resolution R-111-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next we move to committees. The next one is Park Commission. David?
Okay. Just a few things from our last meeting. We got a very good overview of the Terra Vesta, the ag park proposals or vision for that. It was very informative, and we think it'll be quite an enhancement to the city. We also had a discussion about dogs in parks, and which will more to follow. And then we also heard from some residents, the park on Irish Lane. We redid the park, and there's a concern it's too close to a stormwater pond, so we'll be discussing that at probably our next meeting a little more, see if we have some options to make that a little safer. I think that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Library Board. Jim?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Commission on Aging Well. Jay?
We had our meeting last week and went over the survey results that were done. We had 187 responses, which was pretty good, I thought. But there was some ongoing discussion about the number of programs that the senior center is offering and the lack of space to offer all the ones that they would like to. So we're going to have to start thinking about how we will address the needs of the senior center moving forward.
Okay. RCC.
We had a meeting last night, and one of the main things we discussed was the sustainability plan. Ted Redmond from Pale Blue Dot came and gave a presentation over an overview of what the plan is for the sustainability plan. I can go ahead and send out those slides as soon as I have them. But some of the main things there, we're in phase 1 right now, which is kind of a survey of the existing conditions and documentation from the city. There will be a survey for the public that's going to be going out soon. And then after that's done, the phase 2 is to kind of do some early drafts and do a lot of collaborative planning with like an internal city team, and then also do a lot of community engagement around that. And then phase 3 would be to actually have a final draft of the plan, do some more engagement and outreach around that, and then the finalization. At this point, we're anticipating the final plan to be ready September 2024, so just a little over a year from now. And lots, obviously, in between then and now. So I will send out those slides as soon as I have them. But it seems like a really good process. Seems like a great vendor, so I think it'll be really interesting. And lots more updates to come. Thanks.
Thank you. TTC.
Yeah, we were supposed to have met on the 8th, and that meeting was canceled. But the previous meeting, the chair put out a call for ideas from the commissioners, topics that we would like to discuss and potentially champion with the city. And that list includes things like Vision Zero, complete streets, park and ride areas, again, apropos to the Beltline PEL, intercity public transit, age-friendly public transit, speed reductions, truck routes, greenway system, joining the NACTO, the North American something or other organization, bicycle-friendly community status, safe routes to school, slip lanes and right turn on red. I see within the last week or two there was another incident at the almost brand new McCoy and Double M intersection where somebody was trying to cross the slip lane, the no turn on red sign was lit, and the driver ran into the person. Parking requirements, apropos to our discussion on Hartung Fields, and then rail transit, which I guess is a whole can of worms. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Bill. SIDA.
SIDA, we met on May 25th, and a number of things were discussed. One of them was a resolution extending the life and of the tax incremental district for number 15, and we're going to discuss that further on in the agenda. This body will. A big portion of the meeting, Mike Zimmerman gave an update on TIDS and update on the Southdale TID 16, and which is formerly 15 and formerly 2, I believe, under the town of Madison. Then he also mentioned the North Fish Hatchery TID, the Amendment 2, adding in several lack of better words, I guess, parcels, but Bryant Road and then some of the lots for that are around Inventure Capital, some of their projects on the east side of Fish Hatchery. And then he gave an update on the Anton Drive, Verona Road, TID number 17. So great information. And there was also an update on B-Cycle, the success of the B-Cycle program here in Fitchburg. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee, Randy.
Ag and Rural, we have not met, so nothing to report.
Okay, Bicycle Committee. With that.
Yes, so we met on June 6th. In addition to the Bike Friendly Award, we talked about updating the 2017 Bike and Pedestrian Plan. So the chair brought just a few sections, section 3.2 and 4.2, and the committee reviewed and gave comments on some of those sections as we think about eventually hiring a consultant. The committee gave some feedback on kind of what direction they would potentially send that consultant in prior to our August 1st meeting, which will be our next bike committee meeting. There were a couple biking events in the community, including a few on in King James Park, as well as at Luna's Groceries, which were both very well attended.
Okay, thank you. EMS, Jim.
Next meeting is Thursday, June 15th, 7 p.m.
Thank you. Healthy Neighborhood Committee.
Well, we were supposed to have a meeting last week, but it was canceled, so apparently we're sitting on our hands again.
Okay. Housing Advisory Committee.
Yes, we met last night. There was a presentation by a representative of Elevate Energy. They are partnering with Sustain Dane and doing what they call an Efficiency Navigator program. This is a program where they find what they call naturally occurring affordable housing, which is to say places that are kind of run down and cannot command high rents. So they are naturally lower rent affordable housing. And what they do is they identify these buildings, and the owners can apply for this program as well. And they will get a grant up to $60,000 apparently, and they can use that for upgrading, energy efficiency related things, insulation, heat pumps, solar panels, et cetera. And Elevate Energy and Sustain Dane will also provide services which they do not charge for. Yes, and Mike gave us probably the same sort of an update that he gave to CETA regarding our 3 TIF districts that we're opening up this year.
Thank you. Landmark Preservation Commission.
No report.
Tree Advisory Committee.
I wasn't at the last meeting, so no report.
Okay, thank you. Police Facility Oversight Committee, Jim, when is the next meeting?
Yeah, there was a meeting with city staff, the architects, and some engineers to talk about sustainability goals. And I will send a couple of documents that Phil Groupie put together out to the council so you can see some of the goals that we're trying to achieve. That's it.
Thank you. So next we move to Standing Committee, so Finance Committee.
Okay, very good. Motion to approve Resolution R-95-23, extending the life of Tax Incremental District number 15 by 2 months to improve housing quality and affordability.
Second.
Did Finance Committee approve?
Finance Committee approved, yes.
And CETA?
CETA approved as well.
Okay. Can you explain what is this?
Yeah, I may ask Misty to step in here, but basically this is TID number 15, formerly Town of Madison, TID number 2, the Southdale area. And there are no additional project costs expected with this TID, so it's ready to close. And by state statute, it allows for us to extend the life of the TID by up to 1 year to use the incremental funds for affordable housing and to improve the city's housing stock. I guess there's approximately or a projected dollar amount of $600,000 of funding from TID 15 for the affordable housing extension. And I think the final dollar amount will be calculated by the end of the year 2023. And the funds are expected to be used similarly to what we did use them for in TID 4, the extension to meet further the goals of the housing plan, including potential programs to incorporate affordable units within market rate apartment buildings and reinvest into multifamily affordable housing stock, such as energy efficiency audits and upgrades of existing housing. So, Misty, would you like to add anything?
I have nothing to add. Excellent job.
Any question for Randy or Misty? Bill.
How did we decide on 2 months?
So we technically have up to a year. We are putting this kind of on the fast track. So you saw in the referrals is actually the resolution to do the full closure as well. The intention is to get that closed before we start approving the TID 16 creation, which is in that same area. So we wanted this one closed before we do that one so there isn't an overlay.
Any other question, comment?
I don't have a question, but I'm going to add, and Misty, we had this conversation during finance. I think with this closure, that fund should be somewhere around 7.5 or 8. I know you thought it was a little bit more than that. Mike thought it was a little less. But, I mean, that is a sizable amount of money that we are putting together. So for anyone that has questions regarding affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All those in favor of resolution, what is? All right. IR 95-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. Thank you.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
Misty, I know at the next committee of the whole meeting, we're going to have discussion with Ellers and have the kind of the summary of all of our TID districts that's kind of wrapped into that. Can we get a map that shows the physical boundaries of those TID districts as part of that?
Sure. So the financial management plan is what Ellers will be working us through. It doesn't really talk about the TIDs, but I'm happy to send you a link to.
I thought there was usually a summary page in there.
I don't believe so. Maybe I'm forgetting.
Oh. Well, if you could send one out, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to the annual reports that we have.
All right.
And then we'll be working on the next year's annual reports, the 2022 annual reports. Those will go to the Joint Review Board in August.
Okay, next.
Next, motion to approve Resolution R-114-23, adopting the 2024 annual city budget schedule.
Second.
Finance did approve. Really.
Okay.
And this resolution provides the schedule to be used to implement the city's budget. We're working on the CIP right now, but this is the schedule for the city's budget.
Okay. Any comment, question? No? All those in favor of resolution R-114-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. Randy, can you invite the rest of the council for tomorrow meeting before you close Finance Committee? For the CIP?
Sure, tomorrow evening?
Yeah.
Is that further down in, or would you like?
No, I want you to remind people that tomorrow.
Just as a reminder, tomorrow evening, 6 p.m., hopefully I have that time correct, is the CIP presentation. Department heads will present their portion of the CIP, from my understanding. All city council members are welcome. It is a special finance committee meeting, though. So if there's any resolutions to be voted on, the finance committee itself will vote on those particular resolutions, but it's very, very informational for those who, most of us have been through it, but.
Thank you.
Except for Bill.
So next we move to Personnel Committee.
We meet next on July 12th, and that will be the meeting where Baker Tilly will give a final report on the organizational staffing study. So it will be an important one, and I'll ask Sarah to send that out to the council as well in case you all want to attend in person. Thanks.
Okay. So next, public safety.
Just, I think you've probably seen it if you've been out and about on the weekends. We're approving a huge number of sound permits for birthday parties, graduation parties. The people in the city are celebrating, and tonight we approved all the various different liquor licenses for businesses, so that is taken care of now. That's all.
Thank you. So next we move to new business. This is our direct referral. So the first one.
I'll move approval of Resolution R-115-23, approving change order 3 for maintenance services at well 5.
Second.
Did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
Did Finance Committee approve?
Finance approved.
Okay, what is this?
Well, yeah, I think you're all aware of the saga of rehabilitating this well. We've had to remove an additional 51 feet of sand out of the bottom. And I believe, Tracy, was it 17 couplings that had to be replaced in the 19 in the pipe. So we think we're finally getting it whittled down. As you drive by the well or the reservoir, you see water is coming out. We're working on it. We are hoping, this is approximately $33,000, I think, for this last change order, that we'll finally have this behind us, and putting this on maybe a shorter maintenance cycle will avoid this in the future. But we need this well back online with as dry as it's been, and with summer upon us, we hope to get this up and running shortly.
Any question, Tracy? Do you want to add anything to this? No? Any question, comment? No? Okay. So all those in favor of resolution R-115-23, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The motion carry. So next one is Finance Committee. Randy.
All right. Misty, are you there to make sure I repeat this correctly? But motion to approve Resolution R-121-23, amending the Employee Referral Bonus Program for police to include all sworn law enforcement with the exception of the police chief as amended by the Finance Committee.
Second.
And Finance approved the amendment. And Misty, you will speak to this?
I can, sure. So overall, what this policy does is it's very similar to the referral bonus program that council approved previously, but there was just a little uncertainty about whether it included just police officers or all sworn staff, including sergeants, lieutenants, detectives, and deputy chief if needed. So bringing that back for your consideration. The amendment that Randy included in his motion is that the last clause on the resolution was a budget amendment. That budget amendment actually isn't needed, since we believe that the cost that was approved with the original program will cover whatever additional bonuses are awarded through this clarification. So that budget amendment language can be struck.
Any comment, question? All those in favor of resolution R-121-23, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next one is, it doesn't have it's about the polling station. So who's going to read it?
I'll.
You do it? Okay.
Yeah, I'll move approval of resolution R-124-23 to change the location, to change polling location designating Doxa Church 2700 Novation Parkway as Aldermanic District Number 3, Ward 12 polling location.
Second.
Okay. I don't know. Who is going to explain to you, Tracy?
Do you want me to cover it, Tracy, or do you want to?
You can have a stab at it.
I'll give it a go. You could fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Scott, do you mind if you allow me to share screen? That's working really well. Then you can see my blank screen with what I want to have over here on the left. My apologies. Let me try to download that supporting document again. There we go. So I wanted to at least bring up the ward map just for reference so that folks could see what exactly we were referring to. So this particular item is in regards to moving Ward 12. Their polling location is currently at City Hall here, or the community center technically. And due to long lines during high periods of voter turnout, we decided that it might make sense for council to consider relocating the polling location for Ward 12 to Doxa Church in the Southdale neighborhood, which you can see up here. We selected Ward 12 because it is the second largest ward by terms of the number of registered voters in the city. There's approximately 1,600 voters, if I recall correctly, registered voters in Ward 12. That is a rapidly growing district as well. Terra Vesa is in Ward 12, as is Uptown. Both of those particular neighborhoods are growing quite rapidly, and we anticipate the number of registered voters will only increase there. Doxa Church currently has only one ward report, well, technically 3 wards reporting to it, but only one of those 3 wards has any registered voters in it, and that's about 550 registered voters. So there clearly is capacity available at Doxa Church, and we hope that the council will consider this change to be beneficial to our voting public.
So one of the questions that I asked Chad, why we are not including 11. Can you explain why we are not including 11?
Yeah, we had Tracy and I had talked about Ward 11, and there are a couple of reasons. One, we actually talked about initially splitting Ward 11 and creating an additional ward and splitting it along Scion Road. Unfortunately, we're not able to split that at this time. According to the Wisconsin Elections Commission, we're going to need to wait until redistricting or some other sort of triggering event would happen. So we're not able to do that. And then the other thing is Ward 11 also is anticipated to increase population that would be voting. It's already at about 1,000 registered voters. And with the anticipated growth of Ward 12, we were concerned that Doxa Church would end up over capacity too quickly. And then also when you look at the southern portion of Ward 11 where my cursor is flashing, that's probably closer to City Hall here, Community Center, than it is to Doxa as well. So we tried to consider proximity for the majority of residents. So is it ideal currently? Probably not. Ultimately, what also is complicating this is this line here is the county supervisory districts, and we also have to have our ward boundaries align with those. So if we did not have to align with that, it would have made, obviously, this whole creation, when we did the redistricting, a little more seamless.
Jay?
If you were to divide Ward 11 along Scion Road, nobody lives there. To the east of Scion Road, that's all DNR property, isn't it? I mean, I think there's up at the very northern end, I think there's like 4 houses up there.
There's actually a few more than that. That includes the Rimrock Road neighborhood is in Ward 11. That's existing Fitchburg prior to the town attachment. So we're talking Burroughs, Maloney.
Maybe the lines aren't.
Yeah, this is right up in this area here.
Yellow lines on a yellow background.
Yeah, they're
probably not
it's
the best color choice.
Well, and of course this is showing up green on the monitors, but on the projector it's showing up yellow. So if you look behind you can see what the true colors are on my screen here. So we've got a color projection issue. So yeah.
Oh, so there are people who are living on Rimrock Road who are still going to be going to the community center.
Correct.
While I'll be driving past them from my Ward 12 place.
Correct.
To
we would have hoped to have been able to make that change, but we couldn't do it. That was our intent, was to actually get them up to Doxa. So it's something that's on our radar. If there is a triggering event that would allow us to make that adjustment prior to the next redistricting, we will certainly look to do that. But unfortunately, if we don't have that, we'll have to wait till redistricting. On the positive side, while it obviously isn't close to their homes and residences, they are used to voting at the community center. They have voted there for a long time.
Okay, one question is maybe we can add that to Ward 24, because they are still in the same supervisory district, you know what I mean? So, I don't know.
If we could make adjustments, we would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other question, comment? Tracy, we are missing something? No, we covered everything? Okay, Bill.
Just out of curiosity, it looks like, there is quite a transportation issue potentially there. Do we have numbers on, percentage of eligible voters who actually make it to the polls, and is this distance here affecting that?
I think it's going to vary by election as to what the turnout is, whether primary, general election, if it's a presidential or governor election. All of those things affect voter turnout. So I don't know how we would potentially do any sort of apples to apples comparison on that.
Well, relative to all the other wards, right? So in any given election, do we see a higher turnout for people who are closer to their polling location than people who are further away?
Oh, I know what you mean. Okay.
Well, that would require us to analyze how many voters' records after each election, how many typically vote in if we have 50% turnout, we're talking about, 10,000 potential records to analyze, and we certainly don't have the staff available to do that.
I thought we had like general numbers for, District 1, 2, 3, and 4. What's the percentage turnout?
We do have that, but we don't necessarily have where we haven't analyzed where those specific voters lived when they voted. That's how I'm interpreting your question is
well, I'm just thinking,
who votes by address?
The purple on the screen there. Everybody is fairly close to that polling location, whereas in Ward 11, they're not. And Ward, so I guess, I don't know. I just thought maybe there were some high-level numbers that we could interpret and say, hey, people maybe need a little extra assistance here.
I've not seen that, so.
No, I don't even think we could create a report by address as to, whether somebody voted at the polls or voted absentee. We do have the results pages that we put on the website that tell you how many people voted per district absentee versus in person, but it's not by address.
Yeah, and again, I'm not looking for the fine-grained detail necessarily. I was just wondering if anybody had noticed, hey, this district is very geographically spread out, and it generally has a lower turnout. I didn't know if we had a feel for that.
I know what you're trying to say, Bill. I think one of the things that we can do and improve is to promote more like absentee ballot, for those people, especially in those districts where they are big districts and there is no transportation. I think we can promote more absentee ballot. It's easy for them to deliver the ballot to City Hall than by mail. That one is something that we can do. To alleviate your concern.
Well, and I do think as time goes on, here the council may want to consider whether additional polling locations are added that might also help facilitate that also. So you'll see a request coming up in the next agenda item to continue that expansion. So Doxa was added as the 5th polling location with the attachment of the town of Madison, Southdale neighborhood. And based upon the high voter turnout during the statewide election in November, it identified definitely some pressure points within our current polling locations that we're certainly trying to address with these 2 resolutions. And then I think there's probably a good reason for the council to consider future adjustments as well, with perhaps more additional polling locations in a couple other districts.
Okay, any other question, comment? No?
No, I'll take the next resolution.
Okay.
When you're ready.
Okay, David, do you have a question?
No, I'm
okay. Okay, so all those in favor of resolution R-124-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So, Randy.
All right. Motion to approve resolution R-125-23 to add a polling location designating Blackhawk Church, 5935 Astor Drive, as Aldermanic District Number 4, Ward 19 polling location.
Second.
Okay.
So I can cover this one as well. I'll bring up my screen once again here, Scott, if that's okay. Guess I could have left it. My apologies. So back to the ward map, we're looking at Ward 19, which is right here. Ward 19 is in fact the largest ward in regards to the number of registered voters in the city. It's just shy of 2,000 registered voters in this particular ward. That ward is currently voting at Fire Station number 1 on Lacey Road. And much like the community center during the general election in November, there were long lines and significant capacity issues at Fire Station number 1 during the voting process. So what staff is recommending for the council to consider here is the addition of polling location number 6 in the city. That would be located just outside of Ward 19 at the Black Hawk Church. Actually, I'm sorry, that is within. I'm getting a little bit off my boundaries here. That's right about here. Right about here, actually, is where Black Hawk Church is located. And Tracy and her team went out to meet with Black Hawk Church. They are willing to host a polling location. And Tracy said that it meets all of the necessary requirements from the Wisconsin Elections Commission in regards to suitable polling locations. So what we would do then is we would look to have Ward 19 vote at this particular polling location. Again, that would be approximately 2,000 registered voters. There is still some growth anticipated in this district or this ward over time. And that polling location will have the capacity to take that on. Just for point of reference, each polling location that we do add, the equipment necessary for the polling location is approximately $20,000, just over $20,000 for the equipment. And then each election or primary that's held at the polling location, the cost for the poll workers is approximately $3,500 per election. So in the event the council elects to pass this resolution this evening, staff will look to include the necessary funding in the 2024 budget to cover both the cost of the equipment as well as the cost to staff the polling location, just as a heads up.
Okay, any questions? Randy?
All of those costs, Chad, are they, or maybe it's for Misty, are they all under operating?
Yes, those
There's
would all.
nothing, no CIP for a machine or anything of that nature. I just curious.
Correct. It'd be my understanding that the cost of the items does not qualify for the CIP threshold.
Okay. David?
Jan, I hear about the capacity all the time, and I vote. I never have to wait to either come here and vote early or vote absentee, or I go some other time. It's about an hour period. Here's maybe an hour and a half that these are crowded. I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
Sure.
I see the lines, but it's after work.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And what I can say is, I think it was unprecedented what we saw, and I can only base my experience on what I saw at the community center during the general election last November. When I got to work about 8 o'clock in the morning, there was already a long line out into the parking lot. And we're talking, like 20 to 30 people deep outside the foyer of the building into the parking lot. And that line remained that long or longer throughout the entire day. I had not seen anything like that previously. And then once the evening kicked in, where we typically see even higher voter turnout come in, I mean, we literally had people lined up all the way down City Hall's main hallway here, down and back, and then looping them into the Fitchburg room of the community center and dividing them into two different lines, folks who had already registered and folks who needed to register or verify their registration. So, and it's my understanding that there was a similar situation taking place at Fire Station number 1. So again, these are all things that we're trying to do to help make the voting process a bit more convenient and streamlined for all members. I know that if in this particular case, we're looking at Ward 19, but obviously there's benefit towards 17, 18, 21, who are also voting at the fire station. So it's one of those things that it when we see it, it was pretty interesting to see, because you're right, Alder Herbst, that typically you see the rush in the morning before people go to work and after work. But November was a different thing. And we're anticipating that general elections are likely to be similarly situated moving forward. So we're just trying to get ahead of it. Thank you, Jen. You bet.
Joe.
Yeah. I'm always in support of additional polling locations, especially if there's huge demand and you're seeing huge voter turnout and long lines. I also want to just kind of put a plug in to consider potential of new voters and making voting more accessible, particularly if residents may lack transportation. And we changed the polling place in District 1 a couple years ago, and it was more accessible to the residents who live nearby, where it was moved. And, we saw a voter increase. I would also just put in a plug for the area across Verona Road in the near the Duns Marsh neighborhood. There are, very large amounts of apartments over there, and there's a very large number of residents who don't have transportation. So considering not just who's voting and the long lines and the demand, but also who may have restricted access to voting because of a long distance and lack of transportation.
Yeah, thank you. Good comment. So the other thing that we can do is, as I mentioned before, we need to continue to promote absentee ballots too. So to prevent, that some of the polling locations are, some of them, they have more people coming at, especially peak time, so. But I agreed with your comment, Joe, about, that maybe there are, in some other district, people are not voting because they don't have access. So we should look at that too in the future. Any other comment? No? Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution R-125-23, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. So we have 2 new polling stations. Great. So next we move to resolution. So this is a finance one. So Randy.
Correct. Motion to approve resolution R-127-23, amending the 2023 park fee fund budget, additional pickleball amenities.
Second.
Finance approved. And Mike is here to speak to this particular resolution.
Thank you, Alder Udell, and thank you, Council, for the opportunity to bring back a consideration, and thanks to Alders Wheeler and Strassman for co-sponsoring that, and Mayor Julio Radafrada for bringing it forward with a direct referral. And the request is to amend the 2023 budget for $35,000 for infrastructure and amenities for the existing pickleball courts. And there's a memo in the packet as far as our tourism partner and entity, the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor Business Bureau, for some updated information as to why we're bringing forward the request. We have an opportunity to land a pickleball tournament in mid-August of this year with the Capital Area Pickleball Association, and Angela also provided some information in the memo as far as the economic impact of those kind of tournaments. So we wanted to bring this back forward with the hope that we could get your support tonight so we can get that infrastructure and those amenities in place, and then hopefully we land what is hopefully going to be the first of maybe future tournaments that would be coming to Fitchburg starting this August. So I'd be happy to take any questions, and I see Scooter's on the screen, and Angela's also on the screen. She's out of town right now, but we're all available for questions and information, if that would be helpful for you.
Angela, do you want to speak?
No, I'm just here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Jay.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the meeting that this came up at before because I was a strong supporter of this. So I do hope that this passes tonight, please.
Dave.
You know, I'm a pickleball fan. But, you know, it's an amenity. We got a shelter somewhere, you know, all right, 35,000. We have a tournament, so the people live in the area can't use the court that weekend. I'm not opposed to this. I think these people should have some skin in the game. You know, I suggested, had you considered doing a fundraiser, it would have passed if they would have said, we'll come up with half. You know, I think I'm all for the city putting in the remainder of the slats on there, but I got to tell you, I am burned. But we had that meeting, and what do? Instead of, you know, thinking about it, they put signs out the pickleball courts that say, get after your alders to give us more money. And these are not poor people. You know, I would be more than happy if they would have said, we'll come up with half of it, even something, you know, but no, you know, we have to have this concrete so we can sit around and drink beer after we play when we have a shelter this far away. I just think this is hubris, you know, get some skin in the game and I'll approve it, but I'm just fed up with their attitude, and I love pickleball, don't get me wrong.
Any other comment?
Yeah.
Jim? No? Okay.
Yeah, so how many venues are in the running for this potential tournament here?
I think I'll defer to that one to Angela. She's been working with the Kappa Group directly as our tourism partner, our local tourism partner, and in conversations with them.
Hi, can you hear me okay? So what we're asking for here is kind of not necessarily amenities, but kind of finishing what was started. Some of the things that are being asked for, such as wind slats, are really kind of essential to the game to be a strong contender in the region. So we're competing just initially with some Prairie, Cottage Grove, McFarland, Verona. So there's certain things that have to happen, and the wind slats in particular are one of them. And this is just kind of, you know, it's a newer sport, so there was a learning curve here. And I think that this might have been something that would have been done from the beginning. If we had just, you know, it's not a mistake on anyone's part, but it's something that we need. So in terms of who's in the running for the tournament, I mean, essentially it could be, what we're trying to establish is that Fitchburg can be a contender for these tournaments on a regular basis. And again, it's less about amenities and more about kind of just the infrastructure to bring in groups of that size. I know that doesn't really answer your question, Joe, or
Bill,
sorry.
I have a question. Are we renting this pickleball court to these organizers? Are we renting the court? It's called.
Yep, it would be rented.
Okay.
They're renting the facility.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, initially when this came forward, you know, I initially said no because I had some questions, and somewhat like what Dave was saying, you know, who has skin in the game, and when do we request that people have skin in the game, and when we do not. Looking at it from an economic development point of view, though, it kind of changed my mind. I think it's a difference in that we have to look at pickleball is becoming huge. And in fact, I was riding my bike, and it was at one park along the bike path. I forget the name of the park. But you actually had a person who had a machine out there that was shooting pickleball. I mean, he was out there by himself. I assumed that he was probably a professional because those things don't come cheap. And he had to be at least 50 at that point balls on the court. So I think we got to look at it that if this is going to bring in citizens or, you know, tourists and everything else in tournaments, I think we almost have to do this. I think it benefits the city. So that's why I brought it back to sponsor it with Shannon. So I do support this.
Gabriela.
I supported this last time, and I will support it again. But I did just want to say that I do think the point does still stand that we don't treat every park the same in terms of how the investment we have in it, and that is a huge issue. It will forever irritate me that we required the inclusive playground to have to fundraise for shades, but we're paying for this.
Yeah.
And Dave's point is good. I mean, this is a community that could afford to fundraise for it. So I don't have a problem with it because I think we should be more inclusive. I think we should be spending the park dollars on things that are good for the community, but we should have spent money to put shades on the inclusive playground too. And the fact that we didn't is an issue, and we shouldn't have to have the people that put pressure in the right ways, which are usually the people that have more time or more money, can get things done in the city, and we should be making sure that the things that don't have as much pressure being put on it also get attention. So I am not opposed to this by any means, but we need to be more inclusive in making sure that we get facilities at parks. And I know that there are parks that Dave and Joe mentioned in District 1 that don't have water fountains. And I know we can't use park fees for that, but I'm sorry, like that's not expensive enough that we shouldn't be doing that. Like if there are children playing in a park regularly and they don't have a water fountain, it seems like an easy spend. So I think we should just be spending more of the money to do these things that the community needs, and it shouldn't just be pick and choose, but thanks.
Okay, any other comment?
Yeah.
Bill.
So, yeah, it bothers me a little bit too that it's coming back for a second round here, and it's like, hey, if we do this, we could get this tournament and think of all the economic development. There's a sense of urgency here. Does this need to be done in 2023? Can we put a line item into next year's budget for this?
I think this is the immediate request for this tournament for this August. When you look at the CIP, and I'll be back tomorrow night to talk about another major expansion of the pickleball courts, to look at adding another 4 additional courts to take it to another level. But this is the immediate need right now for just kind of that basic infrastructure that probably should have been part of the project on the front end if we were really looking at it from the pickleball constituency and the players' perspective. It's a new sport. We're kind of learning along with the constituency here, but this really should be part of that basic infrastructure. And I will just say that, Angela is our great tourism partner there, and tourism is a key component of economic development. It's not only our residents spending dollars in the community, but it's other people coming to our restaurants, filling up their cars with gas, maybe staying in our hotels. And that is a key component of our local economic development strategy here, which also then, if we have room night generation, generates hotel room tax dollars, which greatly benefit the community as well. And I would just say I get a little frustrated sometimes because I get a lot of comments from people, well, Middleton has this going, and Sun Prairie has this going, and Verona has this going. Why doesn't Fitchburg have some of these things? And some of it is the result of kind of decisions that we make here, and we do control our destiny. And this, I think, is a situation where I think we're a logical and a central location for this kind of sport and rec infrastructure, and I think there's a real opportunity for us if we position ourselves that way. So I just would ask and encourage your support for this infrastructure, because I think we need to embrace these kind of opportunities when they're available to us, especially when our peer communities are doing that.
Joe?
Yeah. 100% co-sign on Gabriella's comments, and I've mentioned them in the previous meeting about this, and just want to reemphasize again that this particular pickleball court is not on a place where there's a bus route, so only certain residents will be able to access it, people that have cars. The amount of back and forth that we've done over amenities within the hub, which is a park that's going to be built in a place where 11% of our residents live, was scrutinized on whether that particular park deserves amenities, which are also an economic development opportunity to be able to bring people to the city. So I just want to kind of point out the double standard that I see, that when there's an ask to, basically bypass the CIP process, that we're moving forward on it, but that, when we have processes built in, we quibble over dollars in areas that have a greater level of need and have historically a lower level of investment based on the population. I will vote yes on this, but I think that the way we often make decisions in the city does not take into account equity, particularly equity around transportation and equity around where our residents live and what they have access to.
Sharon.
There's a part of me that I originally voted this down because I didn't see that there was, it didn't seem like there was a lot of transparency. Now, it was my understanding that the park fees couldn't go for, say, the shelter or the other thing in some of the other parks. But as far as like this playground that we're talking about, the inclusive playground, right? We're spending $7 million. It wasn't like we were nickel and diming. That's $7 million for the hub. That's a good chunk of change. Well, it's millions of dollars. It's up there. Isn't it $7 million?
No.
How much is it? $5 million. I mean, we're spending we are investing money into it. And it angers me that, things get implied. And, I think very carefully about where money goes. I vote no on a lot of things where, we have to spend extra dollars. But, just because it's a neighborhood where somebody can't ride a bike, I mean, that would be something that I would like to look into, I think everybody in the community should be able to, whether there's a bike path that goes by there, but, I don't appreciate people assuming that we're spending more money in other neighborhoods where we're not spending in others. We are.
David.
So one last thing. I want to clarify. I'm all for the slats, okay? Before these people show up and toilet paper my house, I'm all for the slats, okay? But, I'm going to lose this vote, I know, but I will add, for Joe, our neighborhood does have, we can play pickleball, Jamestown Heagle. The tennis courts are lined for pickleball. And so our neighborhood does have an opportunity to play, and I see more people playing pickleball there than the others. So I've said enough. Thanks.
Any other comment? So we're gonna do a roll call for this vote. Are we ready? Yep. Okay.
Alder Allen.
Aye.
Alder Gerhardt.
Aye.
Alder Herps.
Nay.
Alder Jetzer.
Aye.
Alder Maldonado.
Aye.
Alder Strassman.
Aye.
Alder Udell.
Aye.
Alder Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-1.
Okay, so the motion carries, so let's.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate the support.
Okay, thank you. So next, we have another resolution, the final one. So this is Randy, Finance.
Yes, motion to approve Resolution R-128-23, amending the 2023 General Fund and Technology Fund budgets, office furniture for new positions.
Second.
Finance did approve.
Okay, where is this?
Chad, do you want to speak to this?
I would be happy to.
Yeah.
If you'd like me to. And I'll try to keep it brief. So as you all know, the City Council approved a number of new positions in the 2023 operating budget. 2 of those positions, the Applications and Systems Administrator position, the IT department, and the Deputy City Administrator position require work areas in order to accomplish their job duties. City Hall, as we all know, has space needs. We're hopefully going to be addressing those in the future as it relates to freeing up space within the City Hall by relocating the police elsewhere. But in the interim, we're trying to juggle as many options as possible. And right now, the area in which our IT team works out of has space for 3. They now have 4. We don't have a suitable space where the 4 of them can work together and collaborate, with the exception of the former Emergency Operations Center in the basement of City Hall. While not ideal for a work group to work in the basement by any means, our IT team is voluntarily moving down there, and we recognize that this will hopefully be a short-term solution to our situation with them in particular, and can relocate them back out of the basement once additional space ideally is freed up in City Hall in the next couple of years or so. So what we have also planned then is the Deputy City Administrator position. The only office on the second floor that would be available for them would be to utilize the space that's being vacated by the 3 IT team members at this point in time. Again, not the best location perhaps from a space utilization perspective, but we'd look for this to be short-term as well, and to repurpose that area that the Deputy City Administrator would be utilizing again when we have more space flexibility in a few years. So what you have before you is a budget request to utilize existing budgeted funds to pay for the relocation of our IT team down to the basement, as well as new workstation office furniture for the additional staff member that will be working down there, and then also new office furniture and installation for the Deputy City Administrator's work area.
Any comment, questions? No? Okay, all those in favor of resolution R-128-23, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carried. So we are done. Okay. So next we move to the mayor's report. So what I want to tell you is I have been very busy in the last couple of weeks finishing the CIP. So tomorrow is your opportunity to, to participate and review the CIP. Please read the letter. There is a lot of information in the letter that we put together. So I also want to thank Misty and also Chad for all your support and guidance during this process. And it was the first one for me as a mayor. I am in the other side. Usually I am, regarding outreach, I met with some neighbors. I had the opportunity to meet with the Crossing Neighborhood Association, and it was a great meeting. More than 30 neighbors show up to the meeting. And it was organized by Christine Hill. She's a former mayor of Oak Creek that she lived in the Crossing. And she was the first female mayor like 30 years ago there. So it was nice to talk to a former mayor. Also, I participate in Centro Hispano annual board mixer that it was done here in Fitchburg in Park Bank. So I was there to welcome all the board of Centro Hispano to Fitchburg. And also, Alder Gerhard and myself, we participated in the training Fire OPS 101, organized by Firefighter Local 311 and the Professional Firefighter of Wisconsin, along with many other fire departments across the state, and of course, our finest, the Fitchburg Fire Department and EMS. So the event was in the Madison College installation. They have great installation, and it was a great training. I learned a lot. And I have now I have a much more appreciation for what our firefighters endure every day. So also remember that the police department is doing some community police meetings around the city. So you have the opportunity to join them. I attended the last one at Doha Church. And then the other thing I want to mention is that there is, for District 2, The police department is putting together a neighborhood meeting for this Thursday, June 15. I will appreciate that the alder for the district participate in this meeting. As you know, we had 2 shootings in the last 2 weeks in that area in the Pines. So the police department is having a meeting with the neighbors. So 5:30, June 15, is in the Pines. So I will appreciate that you, especially the, elders in that district to participate in the meeting. Remember that this coming June 19, Monday, is the first concert at the McKee Park. McKee Farm Park. I don't know. I'm sorry. I wake up this morning at 6 o'clock and I am still. So the concert at the McKee Farm Park starts on June 19, this coming Monday. So please come to support that great event. So, and the other thing I want to tell you that on June 30, Senator Agar is going to be here doing a tour. If you want to, at 10 o'clock, everyone is invited from the council to come. So that's it.
If I may add, if you do plan to come to that tour, let me know so we can properly notice a potential quorum.
So now we're going to. So we're going to start with District 4 from there. Randy.
Just a reminder, Fitchburg Community Fireworks, July 8th. I know we have another council meeting in between now and then, but just a reminder. And Festival of Speed. So fireworks afterwards, finale. That's all I have.
Oh, I have nothing
Sorry.
to report.
Shannon?
Nothing to report.
Oh, we're going the other way today.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that confusing?
Yeah, exactly.
Just residents continue to be a little antsy about the Sain Road, Lacey Road situation. So hopefully that will be getting resolved soon because it's really a pain in the behind.
You said the bad word. Okay, Jim.
I'm sorry. I would just like to commend city staff because of the complaints that was coming in about Lacey Road and Seminole. And city staff was right on it, getting signs out because what was happening, people were starting to go through the neighborhood now to get off of Lacey to get to Seminole Highway. But so I just want to commend city staff for really getting on that.
Thank you. Gabriela?
Yes, one note about the Sherrill Drive stormwater improvement project. It's going to be near completion. I guess they're going to do curb and gutter this week, and then there'll be asphalt paving and restoration, so that will be the conclusion of that project. Alder Ratifrada, or Mayor Ratifrada already mentioned the meeting at the Pines on Thursday to discuss the recent shootings in the neighborhood. So that there'll be some social media posts on that, so I'll be sharing that out as well. And then I did also want to mention that I the mayor said, we attended Fire Ops 101, which was at an event for elected officials to learn about firefighting and EMS specifically, and they put us through several different scenarios, cutting vehicle open, carrying a hose into a smoky building and upstairs, and spraying the hose. And it was an EMS scenario too, where we actually doing CPR and intubating and putting a line. I didn't know you put a, when in an ambulance, they put the what do you call it? The IV line into your bone, which I did not know. I did not know that was a thing that happened. So completely blew my mind. But I think that one of the things that was really interesting about it is I think it demonstrated why multiple people need to be on the scene. And with the EMS, I guess I didn't always intuitively understand why the firefighters always showed up with the EMS, but 4 people was not enough, for all the things that were happening. And I don't know how 2 people would I know 2 people do it, but I just don't know how it would work because it's an incredible amount of chaos and physically exhausting. And then with the firefighters, the fact that we're able to staff our engines with 4 people was really important, because when we were doing that simulation of carrying a hose up the stairs, it was so hard to be in that building, and it was just a little bit of smoke, and there was no heat, there was no furniture even, and it was so hard to get the hose up the stairs. And in the real life, they're on the ground in pitch black with heat, and they're running into things on the floor. I honestly don't, the more people, the better in these situations. And so it's great that we have those reciprocal. I know there was a department fire earlier this week, and I know that the other fire departments show up to help in those situations, and that's so great that we have all that reciprocal network. But it was just truly eye-opening. I mean, you think you know it's important, and then when you're sitting there trying to do it yourself in the most controlled circumstances you could possibly imagine, and that's overwhelming. It just really, really highlighted it for me. So I was grateful for the experience, and I think they might do one again in a few years, and I encourage anyone that gets invited to go if you can, because it was a pretty extraordinary experience. So thank you to all the people that service first responders in the city of Fitchburg. It is truly a calling, and it is a lot of work, and it's incredible. So thank you for your service.
Bill?
I guess I'll just leave out the things that Gabriella has already talked about. One thing I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of is that as of June 1st, the Dane County Core Rental Assistance Program is no longer taking applications. As we know, rents have skyrocketed in recent months and years. That program will continue to make payments until the funding runs out, but after that, I'm not sure what will happen because I don't see rents coming down anytime soon. And June 8th, we had the Is an E-Bike Right for Me event sponsored by the RCC Commission. Well, that's over redundant. That was fairly well attended, and we had presentations by Julian from Wheel and Sprocket as well as Tim from the Cargo Bike Shop. And Scott, I took your buddy Nick for a ride in the box bike around Key Farms Park. That's it for me.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, so this didn't happen in Fitchburg, but on the, as you know, in the Allied neighborhood, there's a kind of thin slice of Madison in the block surrounding Allied Drive. There was shooting there on the 26th of May. So it was definitely kind of a traumatic experience for a lot of people that were there. Nobody got hurt, but there is going to be a discussion on creating a safe community on this Friday, June 16th from 5 to 7 at the Boys and Girls Club. Sheree Wallace, who's from the Meadowwood Partnership, will be facilitating a conversation. So anybody in the neighborhood or that's got connections to the neighborhood, definitely encourage you to attend. I did an episode of D1 All Stars with Fact TV. I did it in person in the Pine Ridge neighborhood. My guest was Michelle Heisinger, who once ran the Susan G. Homan Foundation and is now the executive assistant to Dr. Ruben Anthony. So it was a great interview. Please feel free to check it out on our Fact TV YouTube channel.
Thank you. David?
I just want to offer congratulations in our neighborhood to the many young men and women who are graduating. We've been seeing their parties going on, and we wish them a very bright future. On the sad side, we had it was a gunfire incident on Anton Drive. I'm told that police have a license from the car. They're trying to follow it down. No one was shot. And if you are interested in late July, myself and my siblings will be riding a 500-mile bike marathon across the state of Iowa over a week, and I'll send you the Facebook link if you want to see if we're still alive after a few days. So, bucket list thing. Thank you.
Dave, could you do a little public service for us and explain what does RAGBRAI stand for?
So I don't know, Bill. It's a river or something race across Iowa. You must know.
All I knew was I thought it was ride across Iowa, but maybe it is race. I don't know.
Right across. So you start in the Missouri River on a Sunday, and you finish at the Mississippi River on the following Saturday.
Oh, really?
So it starts in Sioux City and ends in Davenport.
Wow.
So
good luck, David. We will.
Thank you.
we
I need it, Madam Mayor.
Mentally. We will win with you. Okay, so announcement. Next common council meeting will be June 27. Our next committee of the whole meeting is June 28th. So what is the topic, Jay?
We have some financial stuff.
Okay. So we don't know yet what are those financial.
Oh, no, we know, but it's just financial stuff.
Okay. So I need a
Move for
motion.
adjournment.
Second. I know it's not loud.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. We are adjourned at 10:32. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.